closed captioning of National Geographic Explorer is sponsored by Kellogg's.
On this special edition of Explorer, they flutter, they creep, they make our skin crawl. But do they deserve their creepy reputations? Find out as we journey into the underworld on Nightmares of Nature. First, we go out there, inside the upside-down world of the bat. We're haunted by the legend of blood-sucking vampires. Now the truth about bats. Should these night stalkers make our blood run cold, or are they merely misunderstood? Then, on the big picture, they're the lords of the sewer, the attic, the kitchen, and the bedroom.
I mean, it's one thing to have rats scampering around your house above your head, but to actually be in bed with one, that's not so nice.
Rats, the house guests from hell. And on Explorer Journal, there's an 8-legged assassin on the loose. The Sydney funnel-web spider has killed 13 people. And with a killer underfoot, watching where you step down under can be a matter of life and death. It's all ahead when Boyd Mattson hosts Nightmares of Nature, a special edition of National Geographic Explorer. This special Halloween edition of Explorer is brought to you by Kodak Max Film. It's all you need to know about film.
Hello, and welcome to Explorer. I'm Boyd Mattson. This week, we have a special Halloween show. It's our annual look at some of the nightmares of nature. Now, there is no animal that is more cliched at Halloween, or perhaps more maligned throughout the year, than this one, the bat. This is Yukon, a hoary bat, and over here is Walnut, a brown bat. Both are found throughout the United States. Some bats are fruit eaters, but these guys are insectivores, feeding on mosquitoes and other small creatures. Let me show you what Yukon can do with a little mealyworm appetizer. Here you go, Yukon. Here. We'll sit right down. A hoary bat can devour up to its entire body weight in insects every night. That translates out to thousands of insects for a single bat in a single day. These guys are just two of more than 900 bat species worldwide. In our first film, we're going to fly with some of the carnivorous kind. We're headed out there to Belize to spend a chilling night with predatory bats. In this forest, the hunter sometimes becomes the hunted. It's a surprising look at these animals like you've never seen before. From inside caves to the moonlit world beyond. It seems in this place, no creature is safe from the night stalkers.
By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes. Sweltered venom, sleeping got, boil them fast in a charmed pot. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog.
From vampire legends, we think of giant jungle bats as the winged spirits of the undead. Few creatures haunt us more. But now, a journey through the nighttime realm of these silent stalkers gives us a rare look behind the lore at the amazing world of the predatory bats of Belize. Limestone cliffs of southern Belize bake under the late afternoon sun, an evergreen carpet shields wildlife in the forest below. The twice-daily changing of the guard is about to begin. A tree frog ends its day under a leaf. Peccaries will be sought after by blood-sucking bats, but for now, they forage in peace. The doves eat their day's last meal now. They'll seek shelter before nightfall, when hungry winged mammals take to the skies. An orb-web spider searches for a place to weave its nightly web. As two separate worlds briefly cross paths. In truth, the jungle never sleeps. Creatures of the day merely trade places with the beasts of the night. Years of rain have honeycombed these hills into ideal homes for millions of bats. Each demands a daily and specialized diet. A thermal camera reveals their warm bodies in the cool cave, providing a rare glimpse of a subterranean society about to embark on its nightly quest. With their radar alerting them to obstacles, bats easily navigate their inky black caverns. Only the youngest stay behind. Among those preparing for the hunt are a rare group of flying mammals, bats that feed on flesh and blood. The woolly false vampire, the sharp-toothed common vampire, whose diet consists solely of blood, and the imposing Vampirum spectrum, the largest bat in the Americas. With its 3-foot wingspan, the Vampirum spectrum is a slow but graceful flyer. Guided by its keen hearing and sense of smell, he searches for rats. He crawls well too, sneaking up on his prey before pouncing. The rats have fled, but he detects another promising scent. On a branch above, doves have settled in for the night. They won't even hear him coming. He hovers briefly, then attacks. He always goes for the head, crushing it. Death is instantaneous. A single dove will not sustain him. The Vampirum spectrum will soon be hungry again. His much smaller relative is far more famous. The vampire bat survives primarily on other mammals' blood. Its victims can be 10,000 times its size. The bats live in small, close-knit groups. Many are related. Not yet 3 months old, the youngest will soon add blood to her diet of mother's milk. A dominant male has staked out a territory attractive to females. But another male arrives to challenge his claim. Vampire bats use their forearms, long thumbs, and feet to walk, hop, and fight. The fight is short, the intruder quickly repelled. The victor has retained his territorial rights. Vampire bats must eat every 2 days, or risk starvation and death. Tonight, many will hunt together. They may even share the same victim. Too young to fly, the pup must stay behind, fending for herself against the cave's many threats. When night falls, the vampires take off after warm-blooded prey. They will rely on memory to retrace the path to last night's feeding grounds. Along the route, unsuspecting peccaries enjoy a late dinner. Attracted by their noise and odor, the hungry vampires will make this their first stop. The mother approaches on foot. She must be careful. A 40-pound peccary can crush her easily. She dogs her prey relentlessly. She has a pup to nurse. Once the peccaries turn in for the night, the true feasting can begin. Near its hoof, she seeks out the flesh where warm blood runs close to the surface. But the peccary senses danger and exercises its option to escape. The vampires depart for easier prey. As the evening wears on, the music of mating insects disrupts the forest air. To attract females, male katydids strum an evening serenade. But tonight, an unwelcome visitor answers their call. A fringe-lipped bat arrives to quell the katydid chorus. He retires to a nearby perch. He slowly chews each mouthful and spits out the wings. His acute hearing leads him directly to his next victim. He can crunch more than a dozen in one night. Predatory bats feed effortlessly on the forest's smallest creatures. And in turn, some of the forest's smallest creatures sometimes feed on bats. Above a forest trail, an orb-web spider weaves a sticky web. It learned long ago to catch moths here, and its net is so strong and wide, it can also capture much larger prey. It can even snare a bat.
Next on Explorer, bats may own the night, but in this upside-down world, sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. Nightmares of Nature will be back after this on TBS Superstation.
The 1999 Lincoln automobiles bring you Geographica. Which of the following animals traditionally served as familiars or assistants to witches? Owls, bats, or cats? The answer after this. According to folklore, a witch's familiar was usually a cat, an owl, or another animal that had magical powers and assisted her with witchcraft. Bats, however, were said to be used in recipes for brews and potions. And we're back with more of Explorer right after this.
Hey, Sugar, you looking for a date?
No, I want to find Beverly Hills. Can you give me directions?
For $5.
Tonight on the Superstation.
Close your mouth, dear.
I have a business proposition for you.
Holy cow! Where do I go for the clothes? Rodeo Drive, baby.
No, I'm assuming that you're a relative. I assume you have no other uncles here. What do you see happening between us?
I want the fairy tale.
Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman. 9 Eastern tonight on the Superstation.
It was one of those moments in life you want to keep. My husband thought he was getting dinner. My daughter, a new friend.
Time to cook the lobster!
But when the moment came, I didn't have to worry about the light being low.
That's my lobster!
Or them turning out blurry because they were moving. With Kodak Max, I knew I'd get my picture.
Low light, sunlight, action, or still, Kodak Max is all you need to know about film.
Okay, I'll be back on Tuesday. The numbers are on the fridge. I color-coded all your meals so you won't be confused. The blue one is a beef dish. B is for beef. The pink one's a pork dish. P is for pork. You get the idea. The green one is for vegetables. It should be violet for vegetables. But I thought you might see violet but think purple and interpret pork, which would defeat the whole purpose of convenient color coding altogether. 4 minutes on high, stir halfway. Bye, guys.
So what do you guys want for dinner, blue or pink?
Did somebody say McDonald's?
I hope Mom color-coded breakfast, too.
People ask me what's the market going to do 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I say, I really don't know. I really don't know. But I think companies' profits will be higher in the future. Companies are working very hard out there to invent new products, to improve the quality of their service. I believe they'll be making more money 10 years from now and 20 years from now. When people really get worried, they ought to go to the playground and look at 6-year-olds. They don't know what's happening to money supply. They don't know what's happening to interest rates. So you really shouldn't worry about what happens this week or tomorrow or the day after. And the world will be fine.
Visit our website or call your advisor.
Here's something you should never do with your eyeglasses unless they're made from Flexon. Even after bending and twisting, Flexon frames still look and fit great. Feel free to fall asleep in your glasses. Feel free to squeeze your Flexon frames. Feel free to kid around. Flexon frames, durable, comfortable, light. Ask for them by name. Flexon by Marchon.
We now return to Nightmares of Nature on Explorer.
The spider waits in the center of its web for the inevitable strike. In its short life, it has never seen a meal this big. Just moments ago, this Myotis bat was snatching mosquitoes from the forest air. He has broken the web, but he will not struggle free. His tiny jailer seals his fate with a spray of silk from its spinnerets. catch cocooned, it kills with quick, venomous bites. Even humans do not easily shrug off this spider's sting. On this choice catch, it will feast all night. Nearby, fruit bats dance above a rare find of their own, a ripe papaya. Hunger overrides caution. They selfishly compete for elbow room, oblivious to the predators around them. For the woolly false vampire, other bats are a favorite meal. Her ear twitches at the fruit bat's noise. The woolly waits for the optimum time to strike. She steadies the cadaver between her thumbs as she eats. Once it is small enough to carry, she heads for home. One of the forest's largest bat predators has been satisfied. Fruit bats have found another meal and a safer place to eat. Their leftovers drop to the fish below. And the noise is music to the ears of another predator that lives nearby. In a hollow cedar, a fishing bat's sensitive radar detects every ripple coming from the stream. She emerges, the better to pinpoint the sound. What she hears are fish feeding at the water's surface. Inside the tree, her hungry pup waits. Too young to fly, he hangs upside down, virtually helpless. One day he'll learn to put long legs and enormous claws to better use. In a marvel of timing and aerial agility, the bat rakes its claws across the water when fish are just below the surface. Well-timed stabs hook fish before they can dive out of reach. She stuffs her elastic cheeks, quickly devouring food her body will convert to milk for her pup. She can catch and eat about 30 fish in a single night. Few bats survive by fishing, but plenty of fish will eat bats. These catfish are scavengers, always on the lookout for an easy meal. The bats come tantalizingly close each time they take a drink. Sooner or later, one of them will make a mistake. Waterlogged and tiring rapidly, it cannot scale the slippery rock. Once in the jaws of the catfish, desperation gives him strength. He is a survivor. Even in their roosts, the rainforest bats risk falling victim to all kinds of predators. Lurking on the ledge below are vampires of a different kind. Bloodthirsty assassin bugs.
Next on Explorer, unable to fly to safety, a bat pup finds itself caught between a rock and a six-legged assassin out for blood. When Nightmares of Nature returns on TBS Superstation.
If you were to take away all the luxury cars on this road, priced above $30,000, without such luxuries as Bose CD audio system, leather seats, and a satellite-linked navigation system, what you'd have left would be the new 225 horsepower Acura TL and one very empty road on which to enjoy it. The new TL from Acura.
Professional builders, people who make a living with their tools, prefer to buy their tools at the Home Depot more than any other store in America. And whether it's the selection, the quality brands we offer, or our guaranteed commitment to the lowest prices, we think it's a pretty powerful argument for why you should shop here too. The Home Depot, where people who know their stuff buy their stuff.
9 programs, $27. 5 hot dogs, 6 pennants, $45. 1 big puffy hand, $6. Their first big league ball game, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard, the card at the heart of Major League Baseball.
Tonight, ordinary Americans are moving to Jerusalem to witness what they expect will be the second coming of Jesus. Millennial pilgrims in the world's most divided spiritual capital. CNN in Time, tonight, 10, 9 Central on CNN.
You're watching Nightmares of Nature on National Geographic Explorer.
When you love something, you work really hard to get it right. So don't cut yourself short. It's as easy as ever to get HIV. You know, that virus that causes AIDS. You already know how to protect yourself. But are you really using what you know? Maybe it's time to be responsible. Make that commitment. Be a force for change. Because when you're protecting yourself, you're protecting everybody.
When I get to an appointment on time, our customers have this look on their face like they can't believe it or something. I guess I can understand it. Things happen. Traffic gets bad, but no excuses. Here's the deal at TCI. If I can't get to an appointment on time, we'll give our customers $20 or free installation. Guaranteed. Like to see their expressions when they hear that. Right on time.
Now back to Nightmares of Nature, a special edition of Explorer.
In the wee hours of the night, an assassin bug hides her eggs. Some are hatching. The nymph's translucent armor will quickly harden. But right now, it must have the blood of a vertebrate. exhausted fruit bat, finally dry, sleeps off his ordeal, only to face another assault. The assassin nymph, like the vampire bat, senses its victim's body heat. It punctures the bat's wingtip with its needle-like nose. Its saliva acts as an anesthetic. The bat feels no pain. Deeper in the cave, the vampire pup has made a fateful mistake and slid down the slick cave wall. She finds herself caught on a ledge at the wrong end of a bloodsucker's siphon. Unable to fly, she uses her strong forearms and legs to elude her pursuers. But the steep walls make escape difficult. Her cries will go unanswered until her mother returns from the hunt. At the forest's edge, the pup's mother stalks a promising prey. For these bats, a pig is a feast. The only question is where to start. Vampire bats have heat sensors in their noses. They act like thermal imagers, telling them where warm blood flows. They feed where the pig's skin glows white hot. As fine as razor blades, the vampire's incisors cut painlessly. The pig scarcely objects. Her blood flows freely. The bat's saliva prevents it from clotting. With each sip, a blood drop runs up a groove on the underside of the bat's tongue. Undisturbed, a vampire can dine for a full half hour. Drinking half her weight in blood, the mother becomes too heavy to fly. She urinates. In a month of nightly feedings, 5 vampires can consume almost a gallon of pig's blood. Back in the cave, the vampire pup is still trying to elude the assassin bugs. She retreats from her tenacious pursuers by scaling the cave wall, backwards. Outside, a pre-dawn shower drives many of the forest's nighttime predators to shelter. Bats don't fly in the rain. When the downpour stops, tree frogs surface, intent on mating. Rain improves the odds their spawn will develop into tadpoles. The frogs' mating songs also court. a fringe-lipped bat emerges from his The frogs are playing his favorite tune. Some frogs are poisonous, but the fringe-lipped bat comes hardwired to distinguish from the clamor of death. He can identify and avoid poisonous frogs just by listening to their calls. He pauses and then goes for the kill. As the night draws to a close, the fringe-lipped bat takes his last meal back to his roost. The vampire pup, having climbed to safety, raises her head to the sound of her colony's return. Her ordeal has left her hungry, but otherwise, no worse for wear. Her mother immediately tends to her. Vampires nurse their young for as long as 9 months, creating a strong bond between mother and pup. Group members often groom one another. Some regurgitate blood dinners to relatives or intimates who have hunted with less success. Such sharing is virtually unheard of elsewhere in the wild. The vampire pup nestles against her mother as the group settles in for a long day's nap. The vampirum spectrum quits the forest, even though he returns to his roost empty-handed. With another hunting and eating frenzy set to begin in just 12 hours, the forest bats must now conserve their energy. They will spend the day resting. The last stragglers wander home well before dawn. Errant stars retake their places in a ceiling constellation. And the underworld relinquishes the sky to another day.
It's been said that vampire bats have good memories, that they'll return to the same host night after night, even though there are other potential victims nearby. No one is sure exactly why this happens. Perhaps one pig is more appealing than another. Or maybe the taste for blood is more sophisticated than we ever knew. And we're back with more of Explorer and our special show on the nightmares of nature right after this.
Next, the big picture. Find out why they call it the city that never sleeps.
I mean, it's one thing to have rats scampering around your house above your head, but to actually be in bed with one, that's not so nice.
A New York nightmare when this special edition of Explorer returns. After this on TBS Superstation.
Wild Bites is brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. How quickly can fire ants devour a frog carcass? The answer after this.
The more you do something, the better you get. State Farm's been settling car insurance claims for over 75 years, millions of them. We've come up with a system that works so well that more drivers trust State Farm than all those cut rate insurers put together. You're buying into that promise that we're going to be there to take care of you when the claim happens. Every day, State Farm handles over 30,000 claims. It's a practice makes perfect thing. That's the reason the competition doesn't stand a chance.
And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
A swarm of fire ants can strip a large frog to the bone overnight. By working together and stinging their prey as a group, an army of ants is able to immobilize much larger animals and then devour them. And we're back with more of Explore right after this.
They are just people. Normal in every way but one. They expect more from a truck than 99% of the world. We call them the 1%ers. With their demanding standards in mind, we introduce the all-new GMC Sierra. The first half-ton pickup with four-wheel anti-lock disc brakes and our largest cab ever. 1%ers, the wait is over. The all-new Sierra from GMC.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. You know, your home is your sanctuary, the one place you and your children should feel safe. But there can be dangers, too, and some of them are not so obvious. Improperly wired outlets that can electrocute, water coolers that can burn, household cleaners that can kill, lead paint that can poison. To find out about them, call HUD.
For a free brochure on HUD's healthy homes and FHA loans, just call. HUD and FHA are on your side.
People, today's agenda, the information age.
What happened to the industrial age?
That was last century.
Those were the days. You built it, you sold it.
No more living in the past. Today, it's not just what you make, it's what you know that matters.
He always gets so proactive around the millennials.
All I know is they need help communicating down there. Look, he just quit, and years of knowledge are going out the door with him.
Isn't there a way to capture what he knows?
Over there, she's got thousands of documents on the network.
Finding the one she needs should be simpler.
He's got half a good idea over there, she's got the other half.
We get the picture.
What are we supposed to do about it?
Make it simpler for people to exchange ideas.
Share documents, have conversations.
Right, so they create knowledge they can use.
They'll need a digital office.
With new software, new hardware.
Relax, I've got us a partner down there.
But they only make...
Not anymore, they don't.
Oh.
Keep the conversation going. Share the knowledge. The Digital Document Company, Xerox.
The Superstation brings you another Connor family moment.
Maybe you wouldn't, but this isn't you, it's me. And there's a real easy way to tell us apart. You, me. You, me.
Roseanne. One full hour, weekdays at 7:05 Eastern on the Superstation.
A full hour of yours truly. Aren't you lucky?
Now back to Nightmares of Nature and your host, Boyd Mattson.
It's the middle of the night. You stumble into a darkened room and flip on the lights. And there they are, intruders scrambling for cover. It's enough to send most people running for the yellow pages. They don't want 911. They need an exterminator. Of all the animals that invade your home, most would agree the worst is the rat. Unlike bats, the unfavorable traits that people attribute to rats are often true. They do carry diseases and crawl through the bowels of the city and creep through your home while you're fast asleep. This week on The Big Picture, we're headed to New York, where even the rats are bold and brash. We'll hear some hair-raising true stories of people who've reluctantly had to share their space with these vermin, these creeping creatures of the night.
I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from the streets of Brooklyn. I was born, raised, and probably will die. And, I know what a mentality is, a street mentality is. I know when somebody takes on that type of a role. And when I looked into the eyes of the rats, I could see that they had an intelligence just like in the street, where it's not just one kid, you're facing up to 20 kids. They all have a single-minded presence of mind to do what they have to do to you. And let me tell you something, that's exactly what I was faced with.
Their eyes look evil. They all red, bloodshot.
You don't know when they're gonna attack you, or attack a little baby, or attack children.
Leap on my face, it's gonna leap on my face,
They're getting too big for me. Yeah, their attitude stinks. I have seen some that stood up on his hind legs, scared.
Yeah, they don't find nothing to you. They're gonna attack people.
They're gonna get what they want. when they come to your home or wherever they may be.
The sewer is ideal for rats because they're fairly safe down there. They can breed, they can eat, and they can travel. They can travel across town, uptown, downtown. They can come out in the catch basins on the corner and check the garbage in different neighborhoods. If there is no garbage, they can go back down into the sewer and travel to another section. In fact, they use the sewer system as a highway in order to scout out locations when a source of food dries up.
I didn't know there were rats in the building until I moved in with my children. The first time I saw them, I was hanging out with my friends in the living room, but we were quiet. We wasn't making a lot of noise, so I don't think they heard the noise. And they came out of the hole underneath the kitchen sink, and they were just having like a little party between themselves. And just like looking for food, sniffing around, looking for something to eat. They wouldn't come out one at a time. They would come out a bunch at a time. 4, 3, 4 and 3, like, you know, like that. It was like a family thing among them.
The rat is designed as an invader, as a critter which will move into a new environment. Any place where there is food, where there is harborage, there is likely to be a rat infestation.
Find out who's behind these outlandish.
Take it, hold it. They would even come out in the daylight. They would even come out when the light was on. They wasn't afraid. I would go, I'll throw stuff. I figured if they would hear noise, they will back away a little bit. I would just prefer to have made the noise to like scare them away, at least for a couple minutes, at least to get to where I was going to around the apartment. They scare me. I wouldn't want to get bit by one of them. You know, the germs and disease they carry. You never know.
The main rat we have in New York City is a species called the Norway rat, perhaps the largest of the species of rats that we have. And the Norway rat is a rat that we have given different names based on the environment that we find him. Those persons who work around water call him the water rat. Those persons who work in the transit authority call him TA. The black rat, the brown rat, and so we give them all kinds of names.
The rats find in the subways various kinds of garbage that the patrons conveniently leave by. The rats find passageways in the subway structure, which allows them to burrow back into the wall structure itself. So the rats have what they need.
Well, we see them right by the trough of the track that's right in between, you know, the two rails. And they'll be going in there, you know, drinking if there's a little water. And then they'll be running on the water pipes that we have on the side. And on the track, too, you know, by the third rail and everything, you know. People drop food on the tracks. The minute they do that, it attracts the rats, and the rats, they just mange out on it. They eat so much food, you know. I say mange because they eat like, oh, so much food, you know.
Rats can get into a building in a whole variety of ways. Breaks in the foundation wall, doors that get left open in the summertime because it's too hot, windows that get left open without any screens on. An opening the size of a quarter will admit a small rat. Any opening can provide possibilities.
I needed this apartment really badly. I loved it. And the landlord says, I just want to warn you that this place is not quite infested, but up in the attic, there's a lot of rats live there. I thought he was trying to dissuade me from moving in. And so I moved in, and he was right. You know, I could live with it. It was hard, noises and all that stuff. They scamper around, they fight, gnawing, scratching. One of the worst things was one night I'm in there sleeping and I wake up and I feel something. I don't even open my eyes. I know there's something wrong and I'm scared. And I open my eyes. There's something on my stomach. I feel these little nails in my belly. And I'm afraid to move because if I move, it'll scurry, run up my neck or something. And I'm horrified. I mean, it's one thing to have rats scampering around your house above your head, but to actually be in bed with one, that's not so nice. So really slowly, I start to straighten out the sheet by curling my toes around the bottom of the sheet, catching it between my feet, and then with my fingers, pulling it up towards my head so that there's this tension in the sheet. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just kind of rising slowly from the tension. And then suddenly, as hard as I can, I go, bam! My fling is launched really hard, like a rocket. He was like somersaulting through the air, and he goes, yeek! And bam! He hits the wall, and then he's like, he's out the door. I guess, he's back up to the attic.
Rats can live in the walls, in the ceiling, build nests there, and they may make a lot of noise. And this will happen at night. As you're lying in bed, the rats are moving around looking for food, looking for mates. All of this is going on. Rats are very ubiquitous in terms of New York City or any environment. One could certainly say that no one is safe or immune from infestations of rats in their particular environment, regardless of where it is.
We decided to have a party one day, and I was cooking some veal parmesan, and we had company over. We were sitting at the table, we was playing cards, having fun. And the rat decided he wanted to have fun too, I guess. That was the first time I ever cooked veal parmesan inside that apartment. Maybe that did it. Maybe that didn't. He smelled something that he ain't smelled before.
A rat has a very acute sense of smell. Has very acute hearing.
Something's wrong. You only supposed to have 7 cards.
It has a very good sense of taste. Its sense of vision, on the other hand, is relatively poor.
The food and the smell was out. I think this is what most attracted that rat. Just decided to come on out. That rat just walked on out towards the table and sat right there, would not move. Oh my God, Natalie, look at the rat, look at the rat. And I'm like, you know, going like this, and then and the music was on. The music was on, and we playing cards, and we're talking. Usually my sisters don't come out like that. She or he, whatever it was, just came on out. It was so bold. She was so bold. And it just sat there, just plopped and just sat there. I mean, like right here next to us, like if he had a chair, like if he just took a chair and pulled up and sat there. Right here, he did.
But I can't think of any reason that rats are here. I don't know what motivates them to do what they do. I guess the same thing that motivate us. They think they're living a good life. And they are in New York City because there's a lot of food available, there's shelter available. All the things that rats need to survive is here in New York City.
We heard them from up here. I heard them. Me and my sister, we heard them from upstairs. And we thought they wanted to come down. They were trying to make their way through here. Because that's come that hole was there. We banged the broomstick up there. But it wouldn't work. They would still come out. They would still come out. It was just, it was myself, my children against them. So, you know, they were vicious. Street rats. And you see them in the streets. Those are the type of rats that were up here.
We'll return to Nightmares of Nature on Explorer.
Monday night on the Superstation.
They killed him. They killed him. I couldn't stop him.
A brutal murder yields a shocking suspect.
They just said that the Army is charging Jeff with 3 counts of murder.
You're sitting there telling me that I killed my wife and kids.
He couldn't have done it.
The true story of Dr. Jeffrey McDonald.
This is a nightmare. This is like Edgar Allan Poe.
Fatal Vision, 8:05 Eastern, Monday night on the Superstation.
Fitting in, schmitting in. The RAV4. It's not for everyone. Only you.
We get lots of letters from people, a lot of phone calls. People like knowing who's running a fund, and they really feel that's the shepherd of their money.
Other people have given us more than their life savings. They've given us their dreams. They've given us their aspirations.
When you win for Fidelity's thousands and thousands of shareholders. That's the truly rewarding part.
You're managing a lot of people's money. To them, it's their key asset. And boy, it means a lot to us.
Visit our website or call your advisor.
It was one of those moments in life you want to keep. My husband thought he was getting dinner. My daughter, a new friend.
Time to cook the lobster!
But when the moment came, I didn't have to worry about the light being low.
That's my lobster!
Or them turning out blurry because they were moving. With Kodak Max, I knew I'd get my picture.
Low light, sunlight, action, or still, Kodak Max is all you need to know about film.
When was the last time someone remembered your name, your preference for wine, or that you like your sea bass blackened and your prime rib rare? When was the last time the only difficult choice was steel drums or string quartet? And when was the last time you celebrated all night just because it's Tuesday? Holland America, it's time.
Still to come on this special edition of Explorer, 8-legged assassins that drop in for a bite, and visitors that keep their hosts awake at night. Nightmares of Nature. On the big picture, they're the least popular house guests in the Big Apple. But with more than 8 million New Yorkers, almost everyone has had them over for dinner.
Well, I see them on top of my counter, my kitchen counter, and you can just hear them. Squeak, squeak, squeak.
Rats invading a home near you. Then on Explorer Journal, In Sydney, Australia, there's a killer underfoot. And when the next step could be a deadly one, it pays to look before you leap. When this special edition of Explorer returns on PBS Superstation.
Is it possible to ensure a dream? At the Hartford, we help you do just that. With annuities, mutual funds, and financial plans designed to help you look forward to the future, not just protect you from it.
Brakes? Come to Midas for a break on brakes. Now just $69.95 after rebate. You'll get our standard brake service and our lifetime guarantee. Midas is $69.95 brakes. It's worth stopping for.
Vogue Eyewear by Luxottica. What do you want people to see?
I want you to see where it all started.
Growing up doesn't equal growing old.
I want you to see next year's trend.
Let them see you in Vogue Eyewear by Luxottica.
There's a new line of benchtop and stationary tools out there from Rigid, a name professionals have trusted since 1923. Built to last, each one carries a lifetime warranty. Engineered for the serious woodworker to be the finest tools available. But there's one thing you should know. You're probably going to want a bigger garage. Rigid Tools, now at the Home Depot.
Now back to Nightmares of Nature on National Geographic Explorer.
You can just hear them from the back window, and you can hear the noise coming from the garbage area next door to this building. They'll be on top of the garbage cans, opening the garbage cans to get food. They're all over in the basement. They're all over in there. Because a lot of garbage goes in and out of there, so they know where to get their food. Even if they don't come inside an apartment to get food, they already know, how to get their food.
Wherever they live, in the basement or in someone's apartment or underground, rats are social animals, and certainly they live together as a family. The Norway rat is a burrowing animal. They will always burrow underground, and they're very protective of their environment. Rats normally come out in the evening or night. Imagine a rat waking up around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, hungry, then begin to forage for food throughout the basement, bringing food back to their kids. It's also social time for them in terms of their playing and social activities. It is the time when most tenants hear rats because they're gnawing and chewing and running and doing all the things that rats normally do.
And I remember one time, I had some franks in a bowl. And I went to the incinerator or something, and I know I didn't touch that frank. And I came back, and it wasn't too long. It was little nice teeth, the teeth, the slashes, how the teeth is. But they were eating my frank. I mean, my frank was actually being eaten. And I'm like, I just went out to the incinerator in the hall talking to somebody. It was so creepy. It's very creepy. You hear them jumping on the rack, the rack that's in the oven. You know them jumping and they jump from one and go. I'm scared to even bake something, to put my food in there knowing that rats was in there. Then
think about it.
I never really did. Did you notice? I never really did bake.
There's 8 million different people in New York. Almost every one of them seems to have a story of their contact, incidental or otherwise, with rats. People will see rats running across the street, and they call us in a state of near panic. They want these rats dead, and they want them dead now. The two exterminators for this area are Joe Davis and George T. Shabert. What they basically do is they go out and look for the rat conditions, evidence of rats, making a determination of what type of bait to use. They'll place it down, they'll shove it in the burrows with a stick if necessary.
You guys work together on this, all right? Oh, I see myself as General Joe. To the rescue, General Exterminator. I'm the best, and what I do, and I want to exterminate the rats.
See you later, boys.
See y'all later.
It's a battle between me and them. But when I come, they want to get out the way. They know it's Joe.
They knew we were around the apartment. Whether I was in the apartment or not, they would still come out. Well, I seen them on top of my counter, my kitchen counter. I guess there were dirty dishes in the sink. So they smelled the food that was still left over. And you could just hear them. Squeak, squeak, squeak. And just their nails, they had pointy nails. Oh, God. It just, like...
Rats carry various different forms of diseases and mites and fleas. The Norway rat does definitely spread salmonella on surfaces as it travels. They urinate and defecate. They cannot control those functions, so they do it as they scurry around.
Ugh. They make me shiver. Just dirty, slimy, vicious, ugly-looking things.
Rats carry all kinds of ectoparasites that really invade your homes and make you feel very uncomfortable. Rats bite kids, and that's certainly a public health problem. And then it is a quality of life issue. And therefore, no one in a civilized country should have to live with unwanted rodents in their homes.
I have to let the rats know who's boss. I'm gonna clean this place up. I don't want no rats in here. I like to let them know when I come exterminate a place, I want y'all out of here.
Watch your head. First thing I do is make noise to let the rodents know that I'm entering in their domain. I got this thing with them. We both showing one another respect. You can come out when I'm finished. And once I enter in there, I don't want no surprises. I don't want to start no trouble, really. Just do my job and leave. I just look here, look above, look down, look all over. And that means there's a hole back here. Look for holes or burrows. Plant the bait in. I'm very cautious when I go down basements because I don't know what I'm gonna run up against. I hate to step on one of them and one of them should run up my pants and bite me. I have seen some like them in the size of a raccoon. But once you start seeing that, you know something is wrong. That's what scares me now. At one time, you can shine a flashlight on and they'll run away. But now, they'll just stand on their hind legs and look at you. Like you ain't nothing. You gotta be up here somewhere. But I smell it. It's strong. I'm just not gonna go for that. You know, I'm telling you to leave and you standing there. It's like a squirrel you talking to or a dog or something. That's what scares me is their attitudes. Really get rid of as long as there's garbage around. They're going to show up. Maybe not in this neighborhood, but maybe in the neighborhood down the block or maybe further down the street. At your doorstep or wherever you can be standing at it, they'll be right there. It gets to me because you will never get rid of them. You can control it, but you won't get rid of it. Because you just let your guard down once. One come, then two come, then finally millions. And then you gotta start all over again.
Next, a couple wakes up to find they're not the only ones living in their dream house.
Everything was nice. The rugs were clean. You know, it was not like a place where you would, you would expect to find a rat.
But where there's one rat, there are many. And this family's nightmare is just beginning. When this special edition of Explorer returns on TBS Superstation.
Wild Bites is brought to you by Rude Reliable Furnaces. One bite from a king cobra snake can deliver enough venom to kill 1 person, 10 people, 100 people. The answer after this.
Reliable. Rude furnaces are designed to be reliable. We build them tough and we test them tough to make sure you can rely on your Rude furnace winter after winter. Reliable. Shh. Get a Rude. Reliable.
One bite from a king cobra can deliver enough venom to kill 100 people. The giant cobra's venom paralyzes its prey. The heart stops pumping, the lungs stop breathing, and the victim suffocates. King cobras can grow to a length of 15 feet, making them the largest venomous snakes in the world. To find out more about cobras, be sure to watch Explorer next week. And we're back with more of Explorer right after this.
If you've been thinking about jumping into a rugged new Montana,
I need more room!
now's a really good time.
Never seen a minivan do that before.
Maybe it's not really a minivan. Life was more exciting in Montana. Now jump into a rugged Montana with this limited time offer, but get a move on because the train's leaving the station. See your Pontiac dealer today.
People ask me what's the market going to do 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I say, I really don't know. I really don't know. But I think companies' profits will be higher in the future. Companies are working very hard out there to invent new products, to improve the quality of their service. I believe they'll be making more money 10 years from now and 20 years from now. When people really get worried, they ought to go to the playground and look at 6-year-olds. They don't know what's happening to money supply. They don't know what's happening to interest rates. So you really shouldn't worry about what happens this week or tomorrow or the day after. And the world will be fine.
Visit our website or call your advisor.
It was one of those moments in life you want to keep. My husband thought he was getting dinner. My daughter, a new friend.
Time to cook the lobster!
But when the moment came, I didn't have to worry about the light being low.
That's my lobster!
Or them turning out blurry because they were moving. With Kodak Max, I knew I'd get my picture.
Low light, sunlight, action, or still, Kodak Max is all you need to know about film.
As long as there are Sunday drives in the country and holiday flights home, as long as big cities need bright lights and we never get tired of things that go fast and far and high, the people of Texaco will go to the ends of the earth to find the energy the world needs to keep going.
This is it! We're here!
Texaco, a world of energy.
Don't you just love this job?
My sport is ruled by those who follow no rules.
WCW Monday Nitro. Monday nights at 8, only on TNT.
We now return to Nightmares of Nature on Explorer.
People are afraid of rats because they really don't understand that rats are just doing what nature has given them the power to do. They're just trying to survive, the same way human beings and other animals are trying to survive. The whole problem that exists is when rats encroach upon human beings' territory. That's the frightening thing for some people.
When we first moved in, it seemed like the perfect type of a family environment.
It was a beautiful apartment. I had my first son there, and we were going to raise our children, and it was just wonderful.
Everything was ideal for raising a family. And so it was home sweet home. Here we are, and we moved in. Everything went along very, very normal because we were there, for a number of years before anything really took place.
I'm sitting in the living room, and I turn around, and by my kitchen stove, I saw what looked like to me a rat, and it just ran by. I'd gotten Tom and said, "I think we have a rat," and he was like, "Really?"
My first reaction when Sharon told me about the rat per se was complete denial. And like I say, it's not denial in the sense where I didn't believe her. I believed that she saw something.
Then he was telling me, "No, it's a mouse," and I was saying to him, "I don't think so. I think we have a rat."
Everything was nice. The rugs were clean. I mean, Sharon cleaned every day. It was not like a place where you would expect to find a rat.
I didn't know at first what it was. I thought people were stealing from me. Just little items started disappearing, like dental floss or matchbooks. But that was constant. Like every week I'd notice I thought I put that there, I put something there, and it would be gone. So what they do is they steal stuff and to make nests. And one time I found that out because I went up into there's like a crawl space where the attic is in there, and I slanted the trap door. And all this crap comes sliding out on my head. And all that stuff that I'd been missing, that's what they put it on, was this trap door. So, I figured I'll set a rat trap. Well, the first time actually I tried to catch a rat with a trap, they're really quick. And they're trap wary. And I would find the trap, and the bait would be gone. And that's when I started tying the cashews down with string so that they'd have to tug on it. But I found the thing that they couldn't resist, I guess everybody knows this, who's dealt with rats, is peanut butter. And if you dab peanut butter on the bait, they have to have it. And then it's Russian roulette for the rat. It's like, I think they know that they're risking their lives, but it's worth it for the peanut butter, I guess. And so I finally got one. And it was horrifying. It smashed his head, and it looked like he was trying to get away. And I'm not exactly an animal killer, so it was like, but that was after putting up with a lot of rat problems for, 3 or 4 months.
I was sitting at the kitchen table, and my oldest boy suddenly yells out from the living room,
"Daddy, Daddy, the mouse is in here."
The mouse is in there. So I get up, right? I go inside, and there's my 3 children. They're on the living room floor. And I go towards them, and I look at the couch, at the side of the couch, and I look, and I realize that I'm looking, and it's looking right back at me. I mean, there was no more denial. We had eye contact, and I got pretty nervous. I was going to fix the vanity because it was broken, and so I had this 2x4 that I had ready for the job. And I grabbed my 2x4, and I went inside, and sure enough, there was the rat looking at me again. And I kind of went at him, and he went behind the couch. So I went the other way. We kind of played cat and mouse, me and him. So he went around one way, I went around the other way. I guess 3, 4, 5 times might have transpired as far as me going one way, he going the other way, until in the back of my head I said, "You're going to have to outfox this guy. You're going to have to outfox this rat. You got to be smarter than him, right?" So I pretended to go one way around the couch. He bought it. I went the other way. I raised up the stick, and I gave him a good, jolt. You have to understand something. This rat, and I'm not exaggerating. I know some people say, I caught a fish. The fish was this big. No. This rat, without the tail, was this big. I mean, it was just humongous. And that was the reality maker right there. And that was the beginning of all the horror.
We are in competition for the same things with the rat. The same structures that we live in, the rat lives in. The same food we eat, the rat eats. The same environment that we inhabit, the rat inhabits. It is a very vicious competitor.
You live in a cave in the early days of man. I mean, if you had something that was living in the cave with you, you had two choices, basically. You either fought or you fled. Fight or flight, that's the syndrome. And in the beginning, I chose to fight. I began a campaign of more or less cementing behind radiators, locking up holes wherever I could find them, laying down poison, laying down traps. I mean, anything short of just completely rebuilding the entire building, yeah, I did everything. There was nothing left to do. I felt more secure in the fact that, they're not gonna get in anymore. That's pretty much the end of it.
Coming up, one man's rat problem becomes an unsuspecting cafe's health problem.
I hate this place for some reason, so I thought, they deserve the rats.
The sweet smell of revenge when Nightmares of Nature returns. After this on TBS Superstation.
The Superstation brings you another Connor family moment.
Oh, is that so, Roseanne?
Hey! Her name is Mother.
Roseanne. 1 full hour, weekdays at 7:05 Eastern on the Superstation.
The Spine Tingler. The potential of a true sports car is something you experience, you feel.
That first 300 became a legend in its own time.
The old 99 Chrysler 300M.
To get the feel of this automobile, you really have to drive it.
It holds the road with the widest stance of any other car in its class. The Chrysler 300M. The technology has changed, but the soul lives on. Lease the all-new Chrysler 300M for just $399 a month.
This is a real mom and pop hardware store. I think we have a nice family feel. A couple of months ago, we got a little bump in our car. Oh, we've been with our State Farm agent for 26 years because I think he puts his personal self into it. Just like we do at the hardware store, he actually listens to what your needs are. It makes me feel pretty important.
Get to know your State Farm agent.
You can't put a price on a good relationship.
You're watching Nightmares of Nature, a special edition of Explorer.
Now playing at a TV near you, TCI Digital Cable, featuring more of the movies you want, from blockbuster hits to independent films, plus great original programming. You'll get multiple channels of HBO for the price of one. Same with Showtime, Encore, and Stars. More movie channels for more movie choices. Right through the cable you already have. All for not much more than you're paying now. TCI Digital Cable. Call to hook up.
Something wicked this way comes.
The shadows have unleashed a forgotten soul, awakening the evil within, releasing the havoc that is Halloween. Snickers presents Halloween Havoc.
Sunday, October 25th, live and only on TCI Pay-Per-View.
Now back to Nightmares of Nature, a special edition of Explorer.
So then my friend, this woman I know, told me about a Have a Heart, which is like a cage a little bigger than a shoebox. And it's got one of those kind of guillotine doors in it. And so you bait the inside, the rat goes in, and when he gets the bait, it triggers the door, boom, and he's caught. And so I started catching rats. But there was more rats up there than I figured on. I mean, there's so many rats up there that I was catching like a rat a night for week after week. I didn't know what to do with these rats. I used to take the rats and just let them go near, the street garbage and hope they'd go in the gutter. But the rats kept, I kept catching rats all the time, and I started thinking, maybe these rats are coming back. The question is how to get rid of them. Then I got this idea, there's this restaurant about a block and a half down the street called Cafe. It's like this kind of quasi-new age health food place, with rat heads and incense and holier than thou and some kind of vegetarian joint, which, I have nothing against that, but I hate this place for some reason. I can't go into it. I just had some problem there one time. So I thought, they deserve the rats. They love animals, they don't want to eat meat. The rats like lettuce. So I thought that's a good place for rats to go. Vegetarians, rats, made sense. So I go down the alley where they have a heart. And open the cage. And those rats, they were gone. They just go right in the kitchen. I don't know what happened to the restaurant, but they're closed now, actually.
And then one night, Sharon got up and she said, Tom, I hear a noise. So I'm saying to myself, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? Where is he going to be? All of a sudden, there he comes. He runs into the living room. And he runs behind the couch. Now I'm looking at this guy, and meanwhile, Sharon starts screaming,
Tom, they're in the radiator.
And sure enough, I could hear them in the radiator. You could hear their chatter and their squeak, whatever they were doing, and you could kind of hear them in the walls as well.
Tom, they're in the ceiling.
I don't know how many there was, but it was the weirdest thing. I'm standing in the middle of the night, and I got a stick in my hand, and she's screaming.
Oh, my God!
All of a sudden, from under the closet, another one runs out. We were overrun. The enemy was all around. They knew what was going on. They were here. They were here to conquer.
Tom, they're in the bathroom. Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
A rat is a creature no less worthy of respect than any other animal on this earth. They're intelligent, and they have a right to exist the same way we do. We have science and technology to help us control the rodent population. The rodents are able to fight back with their adaptability. So I think it's kind of a stalemate. They're standing their ground and we're standing ours. They aren't going anywhere.
At this stage of the game, the war was lost. I was doing my best to fight them back. I was doing my best to keep them in tow. But we were losing. There was no promise of victory. There wasn't a night that was going by where we wouldn't hear them in the ceilings above us. You knew that at any given moment, all hell was going to break loose. And they were going to come out in full force. I know that sounds like kind of crazy, but there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was just a matter of time before they would have came to take over their domain. So we basically made a decision. We were going to have to leave. I really do believe that they knew that they won. And that's why I always say the rats won.
I don't believe that the rat is an enemy. Rats aren't vicious stalkers. They're not programmed to hurt people or other animals. They just want to reproduce, eat, and live in peace.
We're going to come to a point, I believe, in this city where people will look out their windows and they will see rats roaming the streets, in the backyards, in the alleyways. And the reason we're going to do that is because rats will now have to come out during the day because there'll be so many foraging for food. There'll be more rats than this environment can support.
When we're not doing anything inside our apartment, we'll just go to the fire escape to get fresh air, and you could just see them. They will be crossing from lot to lot because they leave food for the birds, but the rats are sharing the food with the birds. So, you know, they're so greedy. They run from one lot to the other just for food.
I'd look at the rat as being the most successful mammal next to man. Perhaps that means most destructive mammal next to man. Certainly, it's able to exploit all kinds of environments, all kinds of changes, all kinds of resources. And because of that, becomes a formidable enemy. The future relationship is going to be a contentious one. It's going to be one in which we and the rats are fighting for the same thing.
If we don't decrease the population of rats in the city, what will happen? We will have an epidemic of rat population throughout the city. We will have an increase in the number of rat bites for babies and kids. We'll have an increase in the number of complaints coming in. We will have a quality of life in the city that would be devastating for all of us and for tourists. It is going to be, I think, a nightmare.
Even to this day, I mean, I constantly search the floors everywhere I go. Because remember, when you do look inside of his eyes, you know, you can see he's got a soul. He's got something inside of him, and he's looking right back at you. He wants you just as bad as you want him. I mean, it's you or him. So it's, to this day, it's something that I'll never really get over. It's like looking into the face of the abyss or your worst nightmare.
Next, Explorer Journal. Australia's largest city is home to one of the world's deadliest spiders. And for people here, living alongside an 8-legged assassin can be a way of life. When Nightmares of Nature returns on TBS Superstation.
The 1999 Lincoln automobiles bring you Geographica. What is a nyctophobe afraid of? Witches, the number 13, or darkness? The answer after this. A nyctophobe is afraid of the dark. The root nycto comes from the Greek word for night. And we're back with more of Explorer right after this.
People, today's agenda, the information age.
What happened to the industrial age?
That was last century.
Those were the days. You built it, you sold it.
No more living in the past. Today, it's not just what you make, it's what you know that matters.
He always gets so proactive around the millenniums.
All I know is they need help communicating down there. Look, he just quit, and years of knowledge are going out the door with him.
Isn't there a way to capture what he knows?
Over there, she's got thousands of documents on the network.
Finding the one she needs should be simpler.
He's got half a good idea over there, she's got the other half.
We get the picture.
What are we supposed to do about it?
Make it simpler for people to exchange ideas.
Share documents, have conversations.
Right, so they create knowledge they can use.
They'll need a digital office.
With new software, new hardware.
Relax, I've got us a partner down there.
But they only make...
Not anymore, they don't.
Oh.
Keep the conversation going. Share the knowledge. The Digital Document Company, Xerox.
There are those who don't jump on the latest trends, who believe in a truck's agility and determination, who believe in a truck with legendary Vortec technology that handles even when fully loaded. For those who know when a truck is a truck and not just a bandwagon.
Jump into your very own 98 Sonoma right now. Get $2,000 cash back or 0.9% APR financing.
The Sonoma from GMC.
Some people call it retirement planning. I think of this as future construction. Year by year, block by block, until...
It's our dream house.
Beautiful.
I was hoping we could afford to travel.
This plan can help make it happen. We can even make sure you've got worry-free income for life.
AXA, dynamic vision, equitable, a trusted resource. Call us. Equitable is a member of the global AXA Group.
We now return to Nightmares of Nature and your host, Boyd Matson.
It's instantly recognizable to almost everyone. The large, fleshy body, the hairy legs, and the sight of it's enough to send shivers down the spine. This frightening creature is the tarantula. But surprisingly, most bites are no worse than a bee sting, and no human has ever known to have been killed by a tarantula's venom. Up next, we're headed to Australia to meet a terrifying and far more dangerous spider, the Sydney funnel web. And in one awful way, it's different from its relative here. The Sydney funnel web has one of the most toxic venoms of any spider in the world, far more harmful to humans than even the black widow. This tiny killer with the aggressive personality makes its home anywhere, in shoes, laundry baskets, tool sheds. On Explore Journal this week, we're going to become ensnared in the web of these killer spiders of Sydney.
13 people have died from bites by the Sydney funnel web.
It's absolutely amazing that something that small with such a tiny little bit of venom can turn your body on itself.
They're the ultimate in horrible spiders.
Funnel web spiders, I'd have to be one of the classiest spiders around.
Diabolical and disgusting.
Scary things, aren't they?
They just scared the living hell out of me.
My city of Sydney, I miss the warmth of...
In the Sydney region, there are several million people living in the distribution of the Sydney funnel web.
There have been over a dozen deaths from that, so clearly it's one of the world's most dangerous spiders.
They're irritable, reactive, and they will strike with very little provocation. They're one of the few spiders that will happily fang you for no good reason.
I noticed the light was off in the dining room, and I decided to change the globe before I went to bed. Because in doing so, I put my foot on the carpet and I felt a prick.
It strikes downwards, like two daggers.
And I said to myself, gee, that hurt.
It's a nerve poison.
We recognised it being a funnel web, but it was only the small one.
You can get symptoms arising centrally in 10 to 15 minutes.
I could feel my heart starting to race.
Tongue twitching.
I was breaking it into a sweat.
Nausea, vomiting.
Dryness around the mouth.
Double vision.
Palpitations.
Mentally confused, going into a coma.
I clapped.
Respiratory problems.
And I was having an epileptic fit.
And you die of asphyxia.
I was emptying my stomach into my lungs and I was drowning.
The funnel web has evolved over millions of years in this country. This country used to be lush rainforest. Millions of years have gone by. The funnel web is still here, living on in remnants of forest and rainforest. There is a species found in South Australia. It goes through Victoria, in Tasmania, all the way up the coast of New South Wales into Queensland. And there are many, many different species of funnel webs, and as time goes by, we'll find more.
It was on this site, 15 years ago now, that I found this spider and it reared up and it looked aggressive. We thought, gee, that's a funnel web spider. So I sent it away to the Australian Museum. And he said, look, Graham Wishart, you have got a new species of funnel web here living on your property. Can you find me a female? So here I was in the little forest nearby. I was digging away with my trowel, tracking this spider. And I had my left elbow tucked out like this. And I felt a sharp pain pinprick. I looked up, lifted my elbow, And there's this darned Illawarra funnel web spider hanging on. I thought, heaven help me, I might be in trouble now. I rang my wife and said, look, Gwenny, I've been bitten by a funnel web. I don't know what's going to happen. I'll let you know. Just don't leave the phone. But I went for a swim and kept myself under observation and nothing happened at all. So I would say this particular species of funnel web we have here is not lethal, although I may not have got much venom.
Why is the Sydney funnel web so venomous? Not clear. But this is a quirk, an unfortunate quirk, of the Sydney funnel web. So what you've got in the Sydney situation is a ring of big funnel web population concentrated on the upland areas. The more expensive the suburb, the greater the funnel web spider population.
They have survived human habitation for 200 years. We're the people that are moving out and building our homes on their habitat. People are often amazed to think that they've built their house on a funnel web colony, but they've always been there. It's a fact of life.
Funnel web spiders are notorious, it is alleged, for their jumping ability. And of course this is quite untrue. When they're standing up there on the floor in front of you, basically means that they are simply waiting to strike to defend themselves. And they can't do a thing in that position, they're virtually immobile. When they do get down on all 8 legs again, they can run quite fast, and that worries people.
The male is the quickest of the lot. And I'll just give it a shove and see what happens. Come on now.
Funnel web males only live for 6 to 9 months after they become mature. Female lives for, well, maybe 10 years after she's matured. So in that 6 to 12 months, it's got to wander about and find a mate. Herein lies the whole problem with wandering males, males being more venomous, and venomation of people. What happens is that a wandering male looking for a female accidentally enters a garage or goes in under a door, something like this, and becomes trapped. When it finds itself in a house, it can't live for more than maybe 48 hours. But it's long enough for the householder to encounter it.
Once the male is mature and he leaves the burrow, his main idea is finding the female and mating.
Now, the females live in the burrow, and they hardly ever leave that burrow. The male wanders around and they sort of smell the female.
When he encounters the female, it's quite a long process of courtship to persuade the female to mate with him.
It taps about on the silk around the entrance and attracts the female up, and what it's trying to do is establish the fact that it's not a meal, it's potentially a mate. If it's acceptable, the female will come up and the male will then try and further establish its credentials by tapping on the female's abdomen. Once that is done, the female then does a rather odd thing. She rears up in the aggressive attitude, front legs up, and the male slips its second legs in over the second legs of the female. Now, as soon as that happens, it seems that the female fully recognises the male as a mate and just basically relaxes.
9 times out of 10, she will kill and eat the male after mating. He never ever attempts to kill the female, but she will always do that to him. And that gives her nourishment while the eggs are developing, while she's laying the eggs, while she's caring for the egg sac, and it's a ready source of available food.
You can't talk about the funnel web in isolation. It's part of an ecosystem of other large spiders, all of which are predators. Now, the funnel web is a generalised predator. It's not particularly specialised on any sort of prey. Some of them appear to take softer bodied prey, like cockroaches, but also pretty well anything from insects up to small vertebrates. So a funnel web will happily take small frogs, small lizards. Funnel web spiders are not very well named. Funnel connotes a narrowing opening. Sometimes you see funnel web spiders that have these sorts of entrances, but more often it's a slit with a narrow opening, and the funnel web in fact pushes that open with its body when it's hunting at the entrance of the burrow. The silk at the entrance is extended out as trip lines over the ground, and these act as warning lines for approaching insects, beetles, whatever, small frogs, and the spider will run out to the end of those trip lines and grab the prey.
It doesn't hunt large prey because it instinctively knows that it can't eat this. It certainly demolishes crickets. The venom is injected into the food, which breaks down all the tissues and organs into a liquid, and it's taken up by the mouth parts.
Here we have the skin of a female funnel web spider. As they grow, they eat more, they grow, and they grow bigger than their skin. They haven't got a skeleton. What holds them together is the skin. But they get too big for their skin, so they must jump out of their skin. And that's what they do. They shed it. They virtually climb out of it. Funny thing, legs and all. Now, there are these two large fangs that allows them to reach up and pounce onto their prey and virtually spear them.
It is the summer that funnel webs are most active. That, of course, is the holiday season. People are going out in their gardens, they're going camping, and it's useful to remember that you may encounter a funnel web. People are always finding funnel webs in pools and getting worried about it. The swimming pool is just a great big hole in the ground, and males simply fall in. They don't drown immediately. They can float very effectively because they get an air bubble around the body, and they can float on top for probably 2 days. When they eventually get waterlogged and sink, they still take a little patch of air around the book lungs down with them, and they can live fully immersed in water for perhaps 24 hours. So by no means think that because the funnel web's on the bottom of your pool, it's dead. So some caution there is a good idea. The other thing about funnel web caution, if you like, is simply to observe sensible behaviour if you're in, as I say, a funnel web area. You don't go outside barefoot at night. You don't leave clothing on an outside laundry floor or shoes in a garage where a funnel web can crawl in, and if you do, you shake them out thoroughly before you put them on.
Still ahead on Explorer, a spider bite leaves a baby fighting for her life when Nightmares of Nature returns on TBS Superstation.
There is no limit to where it can take you. A leather-trimmed and preferred suede interior, heated front seats, and dual-zone temperature control. Winner of the Total Quality Award for Best Ownership Experience. The most luxurious minivan you can buy. Chrysler Town & Country. We call it limited. You'll call it unlimited. Chrysler, engineered to be great cars. Now get 1,000 cash allowance on Chrysler Town & Country.
It was one of those moments in life you want to keep. My husband thought he was getting dinner. My daughter, a new friend.
Time to cook the lobster!
When the moment moment came, I didn't have to worry about the light being low or them turning out blurry because they were moving. With Kodak Max, I knew I'd get my picture.
Low light, sunlight, action, or still, Kodak Max is all you need to know about film.
I can help you plan ahead and make sure you have money for things like your kids' education.
That's fantastic. But I was thinking about starting my own business.
As a matter of fact, that's part of the plan too. Now here's the best part. Guaranteed income for you and Meg to retire in style.
AXA, dynamic vision, Equitable, a trusted resource. Call us. Equitable is a member of the global AXA Group.
Next.
Close your mouth, dear.
I have a business proposition for you.
Holy cow!
What do you see happening between us?
I want the fairy tale.
Julia Roberts, Richard Gere, Pretty Woman. Next on the Superstation.
You're watching National Geographic Explorer, only on TBS Superstation.
What makes a dream home? It's your first home or your next house. It's majestic or modest. It's big or small. It's modern or old-fashioned. Whatever your dream home is, you'll find it here on the Puget Sound Home Buyer's Guide.
Watch the Puget Sound Home Buyer's Guide weekdays at 9 p.m. and weekends 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. exclusively on TV Mart, TCI Channel 23.
Maurice Sendak's Little Bear has captured the hearts of millions.
I'm your little bear.
And now you can have your very own little bear who talks and laughs with you.
Let's go play.
You can order your very own little bear by calling the number on your screen.
I'm your little bear.
You must be 18 to order.
This is a very good day. Fun Day Power.
Now back to Nightmares of Nature on National Geographic Explorer.
We also have tree funnel webs as well as ground funnel webs. The females build their burrows in trees, rough bark trees like paperbarks, turpentines, banksias, and in coastal areas you can see quite large accumulations of these things. I was in an interesting area recently which is absolutely infested with these things. Every tree had 1, 2, or maybe 3 funnel webs in the bark or rot holes in the tree itself. And I wandered about having a look. And in the centre of it I found an old iron bed decaying away there. I realised there was some uprights which were the remains of an old hut someone had been living in apparently. There were old cans lying on the ground. And apparently this character had been living out there amongst Lord knows how many thousands of funnel web spiders. For how long I don't know. But clearly he had no idea about funnel webs, their toxicity or anything like that. It's a case where ignorance was totally bliss, I think. And I cannot imagine being out in that forest at night during the funnel web season with probably many hundred male funnel web spiders wandering about that forest. Not a good place to be.
Don't like any spiders at all.
I don't like them and I'd keep away from them.
Yeah, it's part of our heritage. Have a look.
When a funnel web bites, it's usually smaller children who are most at risk. It can be very painful. The laceration can be multiple because the spider can bite several times and it can inject quite a good swag of venom.
The lady came down with a baby in her arm, calling out to me, "Spider, spider."
On the 23rd of February 1990, Julia was bitten by a Sydney funnel web. She was sitting on the kitchen floor and a spider was walking across in front of her and she reached over and we presume she picked it up. I couldn't believe how fast the reaction from the bite to the time of onset of symptoms.
The smaller the body size, the more quickly the venom can have its effect.
And she was just terrified. She had a bright red face and this ring of white around her mouth and very blue lips. Within 10 minutes, she was having trouble breathing and she'd gone this bright red colour. So I just think it's unbelievable the amount of time that you've got. You've got nothing, really, to get somebody to the hospital if they've been badly bitten.
And within seconds she came down again, jumped in the car, drove as fast as they could down to Mona Vale Hospital.
They had to contend with not only this poor sick child, but an hysterical mother at the same time. And they started to work on Julia.
The dosage of antivenom is based on the amount you will need to neutralise the venom from one bite. And the venomous animals have shown no tendency to reduce the dose they give to small children.
The recovery was spectacular. I think that's the only way you can describe it.
But in general, it's practice to give a bit more in a smaller child rather than less, because the effects are so much stronger.
She ate lunch on Sunday, and by Sunday afternoon we brought her home. She was discharged straight from intensive care, which is pretty unusual, but that's how quick the recovery was.
It made headlines all over the world at the time because it was just one of those dreadful things that happened in Sydney.
There's no doubt her mother saved her life by putting the first aid on promptly. We know 2 children have died in less than 2 hours after funnel web spider bites before antivenom was available, and this action, I'm sure, was life-saving.
Without the antivenom, she would never have survived. She would have died.
The spider is a unique spider. There's no venom like it in the world. And so it was really new territory preparing an antivenom. It was in June 1980 that the first hint of an antivenom occurred. There was a big race to produce a batch of antivenom for possible human use.
Now, antivenom is made by injecting minute doses into a host animal, and fortunately the Sydney funnelweb expels venom quite readily when they're disturbed. As you can see, this spider is attacking the pipette quite savagely. And after I've milked about 8 spiders, this is then frozen, and in a frozen form it is sent to the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, where it is made into antivenom.
The antivenom has performed far better than I ever imagined.
This was the most exciting disease there was to treat. It was a dramatic disease, and it epitomised, they were young people at high risk, it epitomised all the sort of things that we'd trained to do. And now they don't even come to us, they get fixed in the casualty department. So it really took a really good disease off us.
In 100 years' time, people will still be suffering funnel web spider bites in Sydney. I have the impression that the population of funnel web spiders is actually increasing as people put in swimming pools and barbecues and set up sort of damp ground patches that they like.
We have to live with funnel webs. Funnel webs are a part of Sydney life. They're embedded in the psyche of Sydney people. They're, I don't know, they almost give an edge to living in Sydney, which maybe other cities don't have. So in a way, we should be a little proud of the notoriety that funnel webs give Sydney, rather than being down on them all the time.
And that wraps up our show for this week. But if you still crave more information about our fiendish friends of the night, check out our website. Our address is www.nationalgeographic.com. And thanks for watching this week. For National Geographic Explorer, I'm Boyd Matson. See you next time.
Next week on a special edition of Explorer. Living with sacred and deadly animals in wild India. First we go out there. Celebrated in legend, revered in religion, feared in the wild. Take a dangerously close look at India's unique relationship with the deadly cobra. Then, on the big picture, a crime wave is wreaking havoc in this small Indian town, and you can rule out all of the usual suspects. In India, macaques are revered, but these spunky monkeys may be wearing out their welcome. And on Explorer Journal, we rarely see them in the wild, but this National Geographic photographer is determined to track down the elusive tiger of India, even though the tiger may be tracking him. It's all next week on Wild India, a special edition of National Geographic Explorer.
Welcome to New England. For nearly 400 years, it's been home to some of the most significant events in the shaping of America. The arrival of the Pilgrims, the Salem witch trials, and the War of Independence, to name just a few. Some say this remarkable history has set the stage for extraordinary hauntings, ghostly visitations from another realm. A mournful woman who wanders the grounds of a Connecticut homestead searching for her dearly departed lover. A mysterious young child who continues to play in the home he once loved. An elderly woman who refuses to vacate her former residence. This is the story of the ghosts who haunt the ancient dwellings of old New England, specters from the past who have returned from beyond the grave. New England's first settlers came to the New World, not in search of land or material wealth, but religious freedom. The Pilgrims arrived first, and within a decade of their landing at Plymouth in 1620, the Great Puritan Migration began. Between 1629 and 1642, more than 15,000 men, women, and children sailed for the New World. Many of them settled in New England. These people were not only religious, but highly industrious. They built dozens of communities and lived off the land. Their strict code of behavior governed by the church. But along with their wishes for a better life, they brought superstitions from the old world. Among them, a profound fear of witches, warlocks, and things that go bump in the night.
These elements have left behind psychic scars that can be felt by anyone visiting the area. A sense of history is most manifest in the New England area, and this history isn't always a pleasant one. And these tragedies, in fact, are the building blocks of haunted houses and reports of ghosts.
The ghosts of New England's past have been making themselves known for centuries. Anyone fortunate or misfortunate enough to experience these hauntings will not soon forget what they have seen, heard, or felt.
This is not a dead house. This is not an empty house. This is a house that's alive. Here we have resident spirits, and they have a say basically in the house.
I had gone to Jemima's grave, and as I was doing that, an incredible sadness came over me. There was an actual physical heaviness that I felt. It was the weight of sorrow.
And I had the most unbelievable urge to pick my head up and look through the doorway. And I kept fighting with myself for a few moments. Look, don't look, you have to look. And I was very, very afraid, but I forced myself to do it. And as I did, something had been there looking at me, and I wanted to flee out the front door, get in my car, and speed out of here.
More than memories haunt these walls in the New England hamlet of Tolland. Those who visit what some call the state's most occupied, unoccupied building have come away reporting sights and sounds that cannot be easily explained. And if most hauntings are born from untimely death or unrequited love, the spirits inhabiting the Daniel Benton homestead have seen all of these and more, and don't keep their feelings to themselves. Gail White has been the director of the homestead, now run as a museum, for 8 years.
There are times when I do walk in the house and I feel that I'm intruding. It's about the best way to describe it. And I don't have to come very far into the house just to get that sense that this is not a good time to be here.
In fact, visitors often report feeling sadness and oppression, rather than fear, emanating from these walls. These feelings can be traced to the mournful history of two young lovers, Elijah Benton and Jemima Barrows. It was 1775, and a young America was fighting for its very life. The call to arms had gone out and was heard in the small farming community of Tolland. Two lovers facing a very uncertain future must say goodbye as Elijah Benton prepares, along with his brothers, to go off to war. But it seemed things had never been easy for the couple.
Elijah is Daniel Benton's grandson. Daniel was the builder of the house. And the family didn't approve of the match at all, didn't approve of the relationship. More than likely, that's because they were from two different stations in life. Jemima is a cabinet maker's daughter. And in the 18th century, you didn't really mix outside your class.
Nevertheless, Elijah, age 28, had already declared his love for 16-year-old Jemima. Before leaving, he vows a last promise, to return no matter what, and on his return, to marry. It is a promise that will echo through time.
Elijah went off to a war with his brothers to answer the Lexington Alarm in 1775. And they were, all three of them, captured during one of the battles in 76. Put on prison ships in Long Island Sound. Prison ships in the Revolutionary War were comparable to the German concentration camps. They housed hundreds of men in absolutely horrendous conditions. No sanitation. They were overcrowded. Very little food. There was disease rampant everywhere. Men died on a daily basis.
In fact, one day the news arrived to Grandfather Benton. Elijah's brothers have died of smallpox on such a ship. But of Elijah himself, there is no news. Grandfather Benton will die a few months later without ever learning the fate of his favorite grandson. As the weeks turn to months, there is still no word. Then, one cold January day comes news. Elijah is alive, barely 20 miles away, stricken with smallpox on the same prison ship where his brothers had died. It is the best and worst news the family can possibly get.
Here's one son who has survived, but that's followed quickly by absolute panic and terror because smallpox is a deadly disease. It was a very high mortality rate. The disease itself was devastating in terms of how it ravaged your body. When they saw him, when he came through the door, and they set eyes on him for the first time, that they were devastated by the degree, the advancement of the disease. And to see him in that condition and to look at him and probably know that he was not going to survive would have struck them to their very core.
The news of Elijah's return spreads quickly. Jemima rushes to the home to see him, not knowing what she will find.
The house itself would have been under quarantine, so the parents' first reaction would be just to tell her no, she couldn't come in, she wouldn't be allowed in.
But Jemima will not be denied. What she finds inside is overwhelming, yet knowing the deadly consequences, she asks to care for him. In doing so, she has freed them from making the deadly choice while sealing her own fate.
At that time, smallpox was claiming 4 out of 10 victims, but the chances were close enough to 50-50 that she really was taking a chance with her own life. I think she was unique. She was willing to leave her house, to leave the security of her own parents' home, to come into a situation where perhaps she wasn't really wanted, and to say, I'm going to take care of this young man no matter what, knowing that perhaps she would die from the smallpox.
Sealed off from the rest of the house, with food and water left by the door, Jemima does what little she can do to comfort her only love.
More than likely, her role was to comfort. and to try and deal with him in the few lucid moments that he may have had, to let him know that he wasn't alone.
Jemima's parents, wondering why their daughter has not returned home, arrive and are stunned by what they see. Terrified of infection, they say goodbye and promise to return with clothes. But they never do. To them, their daughter is already dead. Then, a few short weeks later, Elijah Benton is gone, having kept his promise to return no matter what. It is January 21st, 1777. With Elijah gone and knowing the pain that she too will endure, all Jemima can do is wait. Thanking God for Elijah's final release from pain, she begins to pray for her own and of the time she can rejoin her love.
She probably didn't come down with the disease right away. She was infected with it more than likely in his last days. While Jemima was sick, she would have been put into the kitchen bedroom again for care. Probably not the same kind of care that she gave Elijah.
In the end, Jemima's death was a lonely one, for where Elijah had her, she had no one. On February 28th, a month after Elijah Benton died, so too did Jemima Barrows, but not even in death would her dreams be realized.
They buried them against the stone walls, and they're separated by about 40 feet. It would have been proper to bury them side by side. They weren't married. And people say that the spirit of Jemima is still present in this house on these grounds, searching for Elijah.
I didn't know very much about the house except for some skeletal history, some of the occupants, and I was told of the legends of Jemima Barrows and Elisha Benton, but there were no real details that I was given about events or eerie happenings in the homestead, so I really had nothing to go on.
In 1989, Stephanie Speziali was given an unusual college writing assignment: spend the night in the Benton homestead and report what took place. She asked a friend to join her.
There were a lot of events in the house that took place that had happened repeatedly. All of those events were very unnerving. We heard voices, conversations going on, definitely of men coming from the basement. I did check the basement, there wasn't anything there.
Stephanie wondered what she would find on the second floor.
I went up the stairs a little bit after the time I actually arrived here. We had not, in the original tour of the house earlier that day, explored upstairs. And went all the way down to the end of the hall where the last room was and opened the door and stepped in. It became very, very cold, and there was a definite pressure change that I could sense all over my body from head to toe. And I started to feel as though I was suffocating. And I had never experienced that kind of a sensation before. So I stepped out of the room and I shut the door and immediately returned downstairs. I felt very unnerved by the experience. It was very unfamiliar to me. And I felt as though there may be something else there except for me.
As the evening progressed, Stephanie encountered even more ghostly occurrences.
Toward about 4 o'clock, I think, or so in the morning, my friend Tanya and I were sitting at the sitting room table, but we started to play games. We were playing hangman on paper napkins and things like that. And I had the most unbelievable urge to pick my head up and look through the doorway to the actual room where Elijah Benton had passed away. And I was very, very afraid, but I forced myself to do it. And as I did, something had been there looking at me. So I bolted from the chair with the flashlight to basically find it. And unfortunately, it disappeared before me, and I never got a chance to really encounter exactly what I was hoping for, I guess.
Sometimes the spirits are less shy. Several years ago, before the homestead was turned into a museum, the owner rented it out to a local couple.
The couple were sleeping in the front bedroom, and the woman woke up to see a man standing at the foot of the bed. And her immediate thought was that it's her husband. And the next thing is that the woman felt a hand over her mouth. And she reached to push it away, and then it just evaporated. And she looked over, and her husband was sound asleep in the bed beside her, so it wasn't him. And that was a very unnerving experience. to the best of my knowledge, these are fairly reliable people. And it's generally accepted that they experienced something unusual.
I truly believe that the people living here were very connected to each other and very connected to this place. Whatever entities they are now, their love and their attachment to these things and places and to each other is beyond boundaries.
Well, to anyone coming in and totally denying the existence of spirits, that's their own opinion. What we do is tell a story. This is a house that's alive. It's still a living, breathing house, and I think it breathes and lives through the spirit of Jemima, Elijah, and people down through the centuries who have lived also with great sacrifice and love in their lives. I think it still carries through today. You can feel it. There's sadness at times you can feel. There's strength as well.
2 hours north of the Benton homestead, another haunting can be traced to one of the most disturbing chapters in New England's long history, the Salem witch trials.
In a moment, we will return to Haunted History, New England.
This is a new class of economy. More wines and free-flowing champagne. More comfortable seats. And Chris World, the biggest show in the sky. Singapore Airlines' new economy class. Now, more than ever, a great way to fly.
Luxurious Nissan Maxima is one of the 10 best engines in America, something which may come in handy, say, you're ever late for a flight. Get $1,000 cash back on the purchase of any '99 Nissan Maxima.
Bob, you're restocking housewares. Surely you're on register 8, you in the yellow. You know what to do.
We're rolling back prices all over the store to save you even more. Always low prices, always Walmart.
You can feel it start to burn all through here. All you can think about is getting rid of it quickly. I even tried Zantac 75, but it didn't work fast enough. Finally, I asked my doctor, and my doctor said Mylanta. Fast-acting Mylanta was made to work fast where heartburn hurts most. Soothing, on contact. It's so fast. My doctor said Mylanta.
And if you suffer from gas, there's a Mylanta just for you. Mylanta Gas.
Did you know that Yankee Doodle went to sea in the world's first submarine? From the archives of the History Channel, this is TimeLab 2000. Midnight, September 6th, 1776. Beneath the waters of New York Harbor, a tiny wooden vessel shaped like a turtle creeps toward a British man-of-war blockading the harbor. Inside, the pilot furiously cranks the propeller, and he somehow reaches the British ship. But he can't drill through its hull to place his bomb. So, he releases it and cranks back to shore. His bomb explodes harmlessly, but it terrifies the British, who sailed to open water, abandoning the blockade. The American turtle never sank anything, but its inventor, Yankee engineer David Bushnell, won the title Father of the Submarine. For the History Channel, I'm Sam Waterston.
We now continue with Haunted History, New England on the History Channel.
An hour's drive from Boston sits the seaside community of Salem, Massachusetts, thought by many to be the most haunted place in America. The city was founded by English-born Roger Conant in 1626. when he arrived from Plymouth, Massachusetts with a group of settlers. In 1692, Salem became forever associated with witch hysteria. 2 young girls aged 9 and 11 began having what witnesses described as blasphemous screaming, convulsive seizures, and trance-like states. A doctor, unable to determine any visible cause of their behavior, attributed the symptoms to witchcraft, a crime which in 17th century New England was punishable by death. The girls accused several local residents of causing their fits through witchcraft. Fear and suspicion spread like wildfire throughout the community. Before long, 141 people were arrested. The trials that followed are among the most famous and notorious in American history. The first to be tried was Bridget Bishop, who was found guilty and hanged on June the 10th. The trials continued throughout the summer, a parade of witnesses leveling a battery of charges against people from all walks of life. Finally, in October, the governor of Massachusetts stepped in and disbanded the court, but the damage was done. 5 men and 14 women had been hanged, and 1 man pressed to death. But to this day, no one knows the true cause of the young girl's bizarre behavior.
There could be many explanations, but I think the root may be found in the Calvinist view of religion, in which the devil plays such an important part. The Calvinists believed the devil was everywhere. He was a very real personality and always out to make life for Christians difficult and try in every way to ensnare them into witchcraft or into acts of sin.
One of the locations that figured prominently in the witch trials is now called the Joshua Ward House. In the early 1700s, the house sat across the street from the downtown docks. Author Bob Cahill is a former sheriff of Essex County, which includes Salem. He's now a historian and folklore researcher.
This house is built on the foundation of the old sheriff's house. Now, by the old sheriff, I mean the witch-hanging sheriff in 1692. Very cruel man, a nephew of the witch-hanging judge, Jonathan Corwin. George Corwin's house was here, and rumor is, there's no evidence that's been dug out thus far anyway, that he would bring people back to this house or to this area and would torture them here. We're in the cellar of the Joshua Ward house in Salem, and this is actually where George Corwin, the old sheriff of Essex County during witch times, was buried for quite a period of time by the family, mainly because they didn't want his body dug up by the citizens of Salem back in 1692, who were very, very afraid that the citizens would tear him apart, which they probably would have done. This could very well be the area where George Corwin brought some of the victims of the witch trials to get information from them.
Sheriff Corwin's cruelty was legendary. Some say he used his authority as sheriff to seize the assets of those convicted of practicing witchcraft. One particularly stubborn man accused of witchcraft was Giles Corey, a wealthy Salem resident. The law of the day allowed for the confiscation of property by the government from those confessing to witchcraft. Sheriff Corwin used an obscure English law to try and extract a plea and perhaps property from Corey.
What's the old English law that if somebody didn't plead guilty or innocent, you would crush him until a plea was forthcoming. And Corey never did give a plea, and he was crushed to death. But in the process, Corey spit out a curse to the sheriff, that I curse you and I curse Salem.
Many believe that ghosts are linked to a last thought. If they wanted to do something, just at the moment when they were dying, their spirit will attempt to complete that task. So a curse given at that moment of transition, would be especially powerful, and it would continue on longer than a curse given perhaps at another time.
Less than 5 years after Corey's brutal death, Sheriff Corwin died of mysterious causes, a death perhaps attributed to his victim's curse. Today, some 300 years later, Bob Cahill uses his investigative skills from his days as sheriff to explore the bizarre and unexplained.
Maybe I'm a complete history nut, but I think for the most part is, what is the history? Who is this person haunting this house? Why are they here? Why are they hanging around, if that's the case? So as you research and you find these little tidbits of evidence, that's the thrill to me. I'm like any average person. I mean, if a ghost appears or it gets too spooky, I get scared. I mean, I'm no great courageous ghostbuster.
Perhaps because of its notorious history, the Joshua Ward House is one of Salem's most haunted locales, an unholy bastion of ghostly activity for centuries.
In a moment, we will return to Haunted History, New England.
Smile, you got French's. Smile, you got French's. Smile, you got fun. Smile, you got fun.
Nothing spreads more smiles than French's Classic Yellow, Hearty Deli, Mild Dijon, and new Honey Mustard.
Smile, you've got French's.
Luxurious Nissan Maxima is one of the 10 best engines in America, something which may come in handy, say, you're ever late for a flight. Get $1,000 cash back on the purchase of any '99 Nissan Maxima.
Hi, Puddin'.
Oh, you're so I don't have shoes.
Oh, if you are gorgeous. Noreen, talk to me. Come on, you can do it.
Get the keys. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Tomorrow on the 20th century.
He has planted the tree of democracy.
He was the one who said to all the communist bosses, you stink, you're not doing enough for the people.
Yeltsin's Russia on the 20th century with Mike Wallace. Tomorrow at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on the History Channel. Modern Marvels.
This is a Caterpillar 60. This built a lot of America.
They cleared the land for roads and dams, revolutionized farming, and helped win wars. But as these mighty machines reshape the planet, we pay a price for their progress. See how Earth movers develop the power to move mountains on Modern Marvels. Tonight at 10 Eastern, 11 Pacific, only on the History Channel.
Once again, the annual ritual called vacation sends hordes of people on the quest to claim their place in the sun and surf. Families swarm the beaches to squeeze in a little bit of fun.
Not your idea of a good time? Escape to Alabama, where you can relax, unwind, and enjoy. So much to see and do and remember. Call right now for your vacation in uncrowded, unforgettable Alabama.
Now, lower your score, drive longer, hit straighter with Golf Digest. Call now for your risk-free trial issue. If you like it, get 11 more 12 in all for $19.97. Plus this stroke-saving video free.
Call 800-758-7722.
The History Channel celebrates the spirit of invention and progress with industries that have contributed to the tapestry of American culture and economic life. From the tycoons who made millions to the bitter struggles of the working class heroes. And all new empires of industry. All next week on the History Channel. The History Channel now returns with more of Haunted History New England.
In the late 1600s, the Joshua Ward House was reportedly the site of some of the most horrifying events surrounding the Salem witch trials. recent occupant claims she had many first-hand encounters with spirits that have remained behind.
We purchased the home, the Joshua Ward House, like in the early 1970s for our corporate offices. It was a really wonderful time to be able to pick up such a historic site, and we were very fortunate.
Or so she thought. Julie Taché soon discovered that something about her new office was not as advertised, something that always happened when doors were locked and no one was around.
Over here is a beautiful antique fireplace that they've restored, and these lovely candle holders were upside down. And the candles that are there were not there. They were on the floor, and they had been turned into squiggly S's and a short L. So I could not figure out how they melted in the middle of the night. And I have to assume that being one of the first people to come in the morning and the last to leave at night, that there was no one in here who was trying to make me think I was in Fantasyland.
This startling image lends credence to Julie's sighting. It was taken in 1993 with a Polaroid camera and shows what appears to be a ghostly spirit. All of Julie's employees were having their picture taken. Only this one, taken just inside the front door, revealed the image of a haunting figure. Julie says the ghost also enjoys playing practical jokes. On several occasions, the ghost has apparently set off the house alarm, but only when Julie's partner was in town.
I think she was a young prankster. I don't know, maybe 14 to 17. That's how I picture her, because whatever she did was not mean or ugly. It was like a 14 or 12-year-old playing tricks on someone who had a major crush on my partner.
But the mayhem and chicanery does not end there. Julie's office was the site of more than just melting candles and unexplained alarms.
If the door was locked, the lampshade once was taken off the lamp, and the lamp was turned upside down. My trash basket was turned over. It was always cold in the corner of the office where my desk was placed. And I tried to adjust my mind to think that was because the heat was blowing in a different direction. But even when the fireplace was on, that was a cold corner in the office.
Another bizarre incident in the Joshua Ward house involved John, the cleaning person. One night while working alone, he says an unexpected coworker offered him a helping hand.
He told me that he was here vacuuming these stairs, and all of a sudden he was crouched down on the stairs and he felt this great pressure on his neck. And he thought somebody was behind him, that one of the girls had stayed behind and was holding him down. But when he turned around to look up to see who it was that was holding him down, there was no one there.
He said, "Mrs. Taché, I can't believe it. I had a cold hand put on me, and I thought it was my friend picking me up, and it wasn't." He said, so I left kind of early. I didn't think there were really ghosts. But when I got here, suddenly I had a little more respect for people who were seeing ghosts. And it seems rather prevalent in this area, in many of the houses, because it goes back into history so much. And as you talk about the Joshua Ward, suddenly you hear, yes, there's a captain who's in my house with one arm. And you're like, oh my Lord, this is not real. But it is real.
Barbara Cahill would certainly attest to that. One day she paid a visit to Julie's office in search of an apartment. She soon discovered she was not alone.
So I was sitting really in the front entrance of the home, and I was looking into the living room. And there was a chair by the fireplace, and I looked over and I saw this figure of a very elderly woman. She was haunting. She didn't move. She just sat very still. She wasn't a live human being, but she was certainly something that was a part of something.
The Joshua Ward House isn't the only haunted house in Salem. Less than a mile away, a home glorified by one of America's great novelists is said to be swarming with supernatural beings.
Haunted History New England will continue here on the History Channel.
Is a big odor invading your little space? Stop it with new Wizard Dual Action Stick-Ups and Stick Up for fresh air.
Tell the truth. Do you soak your dentures every day? No? Takes too long? Well, Polident works in just 5 minutes. So it's easy to clean every day. And that's what really helps control denture odor. Use 5-minute Polident every day.
Gosh, I just went to use the phone.
You say once you got back, your wife was gone.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What?
Have you checked the hot enchilada?
Oh, no. Millicent gets terrible heartburn.
Not this time.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts.
Millicent? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables.
Haunting legends that instill both fear and fascination. Take a closer look if you dare. Come face to face with werewolves. Meet the real Dracula. Witness a witchcraft ceremony. Explore the mystery of Frankenstein. And experience secret voodoo rituals. Be there for Haunted History Week on In Search of History. All this week at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on the History Channel.
Go beyond the battlefields. No more appalling sight was ever seen on this earth.
And witness the brutality of...
They were stripped of any human dignity.
War crimes, the death camps on Civil War Journal. Tomorrow at 11 Eastern, 12 Pacific on the History Channel. You're watching where the past comes alive. The History Channel.
Sunday is Guts and Glory Night, beginning with the evolution of firepower on Tales of the Gun. Then true stories from a world of lies and deception, sworn to secrecy, followed by history's secrets exposed. Break into the past with Arthur Kent, History Undercover. Guts and Glory Sunday presents Tales of the Gun, sworn to secrecy, History Undercover. Sunday at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on the History Channel.
We now continue with Haunted History New England on the History Channel.
In the long history of the supernatural in New England, one man stands at the center of the swirl of ghostly activity. Salem-born novelist Nathaniel Hawthorne, author of The Scarlet Letter, has not one, but 2 haunted houses associated with him, the house in which he was born and the house of the 7 Gables. Hawthorne was a direct descendant of Justice John Haythorne, one of the original judges who presided over the Salem witch trials. Nathaniel added a W to his name to perhaps distance himself from his notorious ancestor. Still, he could never fully remove himself from his family's tainted past.
Of course, sin and guilt pervade a lot of his stories. He wants to cleanse his soul or purge himself of his background. He's descended from one of the witch judges. And this is what he does. This is how he does it, by writing these stories.
As a young man, Hawthorne spent much time in the house of the 7 Gables, which was owned by his relatives, the Ingersolls. Nathaniel was especially close to his second cousin, Susanna Ingersoll. Susanna lived in the house of the 7 Gables for most of her life. She never married, and in fact, died in the house at the ripe old age of 72. Many believe she's never left.
The last few years, Susanna herself has been seen upstairs in the PB room. She stood there once with a turban a few years ago and a shawl around her neck, like a woman from the War of 1812 era, and sort of frightened a morning tour in the house because they saw her standing by the window with the sea behind her, and it was scary when you come in a room and you see this woman who obviously isn't alive standing there in front of you, and the tour guide, I guess, was a little shook up too.
Susanna was a wealthy woman with strong political beliefs. Some say she sympathized with the plight of the slaves in the South. In fact, she may have offered the House of the Seven Gables as a stop along the way to freedom via the Underground Railroad. It was, in truth, neither underground nor a railroad, but a system of hiding places for fugitive slaves. At its height, the Underground Railroad stretched from New England to Kansas and helped more than 50,000 slaves escape to the north. The House of the Seven Gables, with its multitude of nooks and crannies, would have been a perfect hiding place along the Underground Railroad. Some believe the spirits of runaway slaves and their benefactor, Susanna Ingersoll, live on in this massive colonial home.
Many times people who are attached to a house, like Susanna, their ghosts seem to come back again and again. It's as if they have an emotional attachment to the actual structure. Perhaps it was because they felt more at peace in that one location than any other.
Others believe the ghost of Susanna Ingersoll isn't the only spirit haunting the House of the Seven Gables. Tourists have reported seeing other spirits as well.
We're in the attic of the House of the Seven Gables. Some years ago, probably at the end of the 80s, some people reported a little boy here on the side playing with his toys. He was from the Victorian period, dressed in a blue velvet suit. Now, I'm not sure which family he came from. He was really not paying attention to whoever was looking at him. He was just someone having fun, but he was not alive. He was not a person from our day. He was from an earlier period of time.
Another house with even closer ties to Nathaniel Hawthorne has been the site of strange, unexplained apparitions.
This is where Hawthorne was born, in 1804 on July 4th, the American holiday. And he was born upstairs, right in that room.
Nathaniel Hawthorne's father was a sea captain who died when his son was just 4. Nathaniel, his mother, and sister then left the house, never to return. But some visitors say their spirits and the spirits of others who have lived in the house have apparently stayed on.
On tours in various rooms in the house, some people have reported little objects being moved around. Sometimes a chair is out of place. The old clock across the hall works by itself. It doesn't usually work at all. You see a little pendulum going back and forth. Who's setting that? I don't know. But probably one of the ghosts. My favorite ghost is Hannah Becker. She's the one who was a dressmaker. Allegedly, she's been seen sewing in this room up here, and she's been flitting around upstairs, going from the children's room across the hall to the parents' bedroom. And some tourists have reported the presence of a woman on the tour.
Karen Shapiro is a spiritualist who says she can contact spirits in another realm. We asked her to use her abilities to investigate the Hawthorne house and brought along a videotape camera with a special low-light adapter.
This seems to be an area I feel a presence right here by this window. I feel children energy here. Little kids.
Later that evening, Karen visited Susanna Ingersoll's room in the House of the Seven Gables.
Very sad, a tortured spirit, the feeling of strife from this person, the spirit. Her essence is very strong in this house. And right where I'm standing, I feel like she very well could have sat right here. I feel like there were people hiding here. They knew of this place, that this was a safe place, and she associated with some people. I feel like she was a part of a group of some sort.
Perhaps the stories of Susanna Ingersoll and the Underground Railroad are true. The attic would have been a perfect hiding place for refugees on their way to freedom. Karen Shapiro is convinced the House of the Seven Gables and the Hawthorne House remain a refuge for something from beyond.
It's like a vortex of energy, for lack of better words. That's what it feels like. There are certain areas in this grouping of houses that's here that just draw you, energies that draw you from one place to another. And those energies, yes, can be identified as spirit by all means.
But Salem, Massachusetts isn't the only town haunted by the restless spirits of New England's past. The ghost of a murderous innkeeper is said to remain at the scene of his crime.
In a moment, we will return to Haunted History, New England.
Nissan Maxima is one of the 10 best engines in America, something which may come in handy, say, you're ever late for a flight. Get $1,000 cash back on the purchase of any '99 Nissan Maxima.
Hi, how are you today? Great.
For more than 2 million disabled American veterans, the battle never ends. Your helping hands and warm heart can make a real difference.
Okay, you ready to go today? Ready as ever, B.
If you want to volunteer, we need people like you.
Don't worry, I'm here for you.
Please write to the Disabled American Veterans today.
He's my brother.
You are the defender of your nation, revered as a hero, but your methods are bizarre. You are Prince Vlad, the Impaler, better known as the real Dracula, part of Haunted History Week on In Search of History. Tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on the History Channel.
Hey! No, down here! Instead of running out for stamps, shouldn't you be running your business? Imagine a simpler way. Get the personal post office from Pitney Bowes. Send mail without ever going out for stamps. Just weigh, punch in the postage, and voila! Professionally metered mail and no wasted postage. You can also add a personal message to get your mail noticed. And postage refills by phone in 30 seconds, day or night. Now listen up, because here's what you'll get. Besides a lot more time.
You'll get the personal post office and money-saving electronic scale.
So there's no wasted postage.
For a 90-day free trial.
Free is good.
You'll also get the Mail Marketer software.
Create really nifty direct mail to help your business grow.
Call now for your 90-day free trial, and you'll also get our Mail Marketer software absolutely free.
Now watch your business grow. Hey, I look good in red.
Be ready for the postage rate change. Call now for your 90-day free trial.
The personal post office. Mailing made simple.
In a time of missing trust, of government denials and the power of information, the cover-ups begin to unravel, the questions begin to mount, and you see the difference between what you've been told and what really happened. True stories from a world of lies. Guts and Glory Sunday presents Sworn to Secrecy. Sundays at 9 Eastern, 10 Pacific on the History Channel, where the past comes alive.
Articulated foot covers, studded leather armor, battle-ready helmet, 2,900 pounds of flesh and steel collide. There's only one place where the past comes alive, the History Channel.
We now continue with Haunted History, New England on the History Channel.
In the small town of Ashland, Massachusetts, some 70 miles from Salem, stands John Stone's Inn, formerly the Ashland Hotel. Originally built in 1834, it is one of New England's most haunted landmarks.
It was built by John Stone, who was a captain in the militia, and he knew that there was a railroad being built right next door, so he thought he'd build a hotel. It was called the Railway Inn when he first built it.
The inn was built so close to the train tracks that the windows rattled when a train passed by. The coming of the train also brought a new way of life to this small New England town. Outsiders, men and women from the big city, were now coming to Ashland for the first time.
These newcomers brought new ideas, brought new beliefs, and yes, did cause people a lot of uneasiness because they were now strangers in these outlying villages, strangers who might be from the big city. And these new traveling salesmen did much more than inspire a lot of funny stories.
Many believe the visit of one such traveling salesman provided the spark for years of ghostly activity within the walls of John Stone's Inn. It was late one night. John Stone, 3 locals, and a traveling salesman had gathered for a game of poker.
And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, in the wee hours of the morning, and it got hot and heavy. And the salesman got a little rowdy, and he accused somebody of cheating, and he got up and started, want to know why this is happening, why am I being cheated? And they started to get a little boisterous, and Captain John Stone stood up and went to quiet him down, and they scuffled a little bit, and he used the butt of his pistol and just hit him in the head to try to figure to quiet him down, and instead the blow was too much, and he succumbed to death.
Gentlemen, what happened here tonight must never leave this room.
John Stone died of natural causes several years after the murder. Many believe his tortured soul is responsible for the hauntings that continue to this very day. Guests and employees of the inn have reported dozens of unexplained occurrences. A female guest recently sat down to dinner when suddenly she felt a pair of cold hands upon her neck. The woman screamed and ran from the inn, frightened and no doubt still hungry. In this same room, a spirit investigator took this photograph of what appears to be a ghost head entering the room through a closed door. Many believe this may, in fact, be the spirit of John Stone himself. Another ghost that's been seen in the inn is a young girl, most often found standing in the window of the kitchen, dressed in Victorian clothes. Stories are told of a little girl who was reportedly disfigured by broken glass caused by the rattling of a train passing through. This same ghost has been said to skip along the upstairs hallway and fill the walls with eerie childlike laughter. Perhaps the prankish nature of this spirit is responsible for several unexplained occurrences in the kitchen.
I had a loaf of bread that was up under a warmer, and I would take one slice off the loaf each time I put a plate up, and I turned around to scramble some eggs, and I turned back, and the whole loaf of bread was sliced individual perfectly. I mean, that was one thing I noticed, the slices were perfect. I mean, it was a matter of seconds that I turned around, so I don't see, it's not possible somebody could have, and the noise factor, I mean, I would have heard somebody, it was fairly quiet, it was early in the morning, no one else was around.
Tricks have also been played on other members of the staff. Tricks that are hard to explain away as natural phenomena.
Bartenders used to pull the draught handle down off the ale compartment, and it says that after they pull the beer down and put it up, they'd walk to serve it. The handle would come down all by itself again. They'd have to run back and close it as fast as they could, and that made them a little nervous because nobody was there to pull it, and there was no one in the front. So it wasn't that it was just one. It'd be that one time, the other one another time. So you couldn't say it was one faulty tap. Ashtrays would shatter on the table. It had to be a terrific force that had to come down on it. So that happened many times that from what people had been interviewed for, and they had no explanation why that was happening.
Despite the sometimes frightening occurrences, or perhaps because of them, people continue to frequent John Stone's Inn and seek out owner Vernon Northover for the latest information.
You have 2 levels of people, one that have read about the John Stone's Inn, and I tend to spend time with them and tell them what I know of the history of the place. And then there's the people that have been here for regularly, residents of Ashland. I'll just say, hey, Vern, how's the ghost today? You know,
Ghosts, for some people, like history, are a vital part of life.
What are ghosts? That's a good question. For many years, it was believed that they were the spirits of the dead who return to interact with the living, to complete some task, to seek justice or retribution or even revenge. There's a lot of questions about what their true nature is, and many theories abound. One theory is that they're leftover emotional traces, sort of like a shadow impressed on the fabric of time. Others believe that it might be linked to memories floating in some sort of psychic ether. Some believe that they're sort of like a videotape of an activity that's left behind. Others say that they may well be caused by people's own imaginations, that we may, in our own way, project our images onto an environment. Many theories, but few answers.
Like the Red Barns, the rolling hills, and the town halls with their clocks and steeples, hauntings are an equally significant part of the history of New England. We may never know why the spirits return and do what they do, but in some form or another, they will apparently remain a part of our lives forever.
Now, an exclusive offer from the History Channel. You can own the complete Haunted History series, all 4 hours on 2 video cassettes. Call 1-800-708-1776, and for $39.95 plus shipping and handling, receive Haunted History.
Modern marvels.
This is a Caterpillar 60. This built a lot of America.
They cleared the land for roads and dams, revolutionized farming, and helped win wars. But as these mighty machines reshape the planet, we pay a price for their progress. See how Earth movers develop the power to move mountains on Modern Marvels. Next, only on the History Channel, where the past comes alive.
New Orleans, Louisiana, the Crescent City, the Big Easy. During Mardi Gras, the definitive party town where revelers annually set records for alcohol consumption. But there is another form of spirit for which New Orleans is known. For centuries, tourists and residents have witnessed ghostly apparitions from the mythical city's past. A voodoo queen lurks the grounds of her Gothic cemetery plot. A highly respected socialite reminds others of her secret, malicious past. And children of a wealthy plantation owner continue to play on the grounds they once loved before they and their mother were murdered. This is the story of the spirits of New Orleans and how they make themselves known today in the legendary Crescent City. New Orleans, Louisiana is a city of striking contrasts. Its reputation for Bourbon Street jazz and French Quarter celebrations is balanced by the stately Southern tradition exhibited by nearby plantations. Not surprisingly, contrast is reflected in the city's history as well.
New Orleans is not the kind of city that's a typical American city. For instance, it was primarily Catholic, primarily French and Spanish, with a large admixture of Afro-American, African influences.
The influences of French and Spanish explorers and the African slaves they brought with them blend together in a cultural mix that is truly unique in the United States. But where there is cultural diversity, there is also conflict. And where there is conflict, there is often untimely death. Many believe that conflict has much to do with the spirits from the past that continue to haunt the Big Easy.
You have to realize that New Orleans had the highest mortality rate in North America up until 1900, when that much death and havoc are in an area that was born out of chaos, crime, corruption, like this city is known for. And that's always going to leave some sort of residual negativity or residual spirits.
In the early 1800s, New Orleans landowners and socialites depended heavily on slave labor. Both male and female slaves were used for strenuous duties in the cotton fields, as well as more refined duties as domestic servants in the homes of the city's upper class. Despite all the hardships suffered by slaves in the early 1800s, none can compare to what happened in this building on Royal Street in the city's French Quarter. The structure was once the scene of despicable horrors performed by a prominent member of the city's social elite. In 1834, the Royal Street home belonged to Madame Delphine McCarty Lalaurie. A sophisticated society belle, Madame Lalaurie was known throughout the city for her lavish entertainments and grand balls. Madame Lalaurie was married to a physician, Dr. Leonard Louis Nicholas Lalaurie, also a highly respected member of the community. Together, they lived the luxurious lifestyle of Southern aristocrats. But the public demeanor of this couple was a hideous charade. Lurking behind the charming smiles were the souls of sadists, a fact that came to light on April 10, 1834. A fire broke out in the kitchen of the mansion and quickly spread throughout the structure. When firemen arrived, they found a strange barred door leading to the attic. When they forced the door open to check for smoldering embers, the firemen smelled the unmistakable odor of death and witnessed a sight sickening beyond belief. The New Orleans Bee newspaper described what the firemen witnessed in its April 11, 1834 edition.
Upon entering, the most appalling spectacle met their eyes. 7 slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, were seen suspended by the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. Language is powerless and inadequate to give a proper conception of the horror which a scene like this must have inspired. We shall not attempt it, but leave it to the reader's imagination to picture what it was. Reporter, New Orleans Bee.
I would imagine the best way to describe it would be Frankenstein experiments, where limbs had been broken and reset in strange angles, amputations, skin grafting, just really bizarre kinds of medical experiments.
Word of the atrocities quickly spread. The savagery of Madame Lalaurie and her physician husband was simply too much for the community to bear.
The people who lived here were aghast that something of this nature would happen. A lynch party evolved, and she and her husband escaped by the skin of their teeth, so to speak, being pursued by a mob who was ready to hang them for their transgressions.
Madame Lalaurie and her husband were never seen again. Some believe they moved to northern Louisiana. Others heard that the couple immigrated to France. The Lalaurie mansion went through a series of new owners. In the late 1800s, during renovation of the house, workmen tearing up floorboards apparently found several human skeletons, the remains of other slaves whose demise had been hidden from the public for years. Many of the mansion's new owners and their employees reported frightening incidents they could only associate with the spirits of the madam herself and the slaves that she and her husband brutalized. On some occasions, the sightings of Madame Lalaurie have been relatively benign, such as the time she was spotted simply leaning over the crib of an infant. But at other times, Madame's darker side returned. In the late 19th century, a sleeping servant found himself literally being strangled by the ghost of Madame Lalaurie.
He awoke to see what appeared to be a sort of translucent white female with black hair, very pale features, very attractive, but with a very maniacal look on her face, choking him. He's preserved by a pair of black hands who break her grip from around his throat. And the specter then screams and disappears. So this is evidently she and her slaves are still having at each other.
Spirits of the slaves themselves have also been spotted, but unlike the spirit of Madame Lalaurie, they have never done harm. In the 1890s, when the Lalaurie home had been converted to a boarding house, a fruit peddler climbed the stairs to make a startling discovery.
This individual came back to his lodgings after a day's work, mounted the steps to go to his room, and he finds on the steps a black male who was naked with the exception of being chained, being shackled. The man immediately approached this fella to demand to know what he was doing, and he lunged towards this figure, and when he did, the figure just simply disappeared.
Today, the Lalaurie building is home to a trendy French Quarter restaurant. But to the students of New Orleans' haunted history, it stands as a reminder of Madame Lalaurie's shameful past.
I imagine if she hasn't found peace, she probably could still be haunting the old house and roaming looking for blood and satisfaction.
As Madame Lalaurie's reputation lives on, so does that of another prominent New Orleans figure. The spirit of famous voodoo queen Marie Laveau continues to be seen, but in a much more positive light.
In a moment, we will return to Haunted History New Orleans.
Imagine TV.
I don't know, Stu.
What?
First the kids star in their own movie, now they're doing commercials.
I wouldn't worry, Dee.
But according to Dr. Lipschitz, if children experience fame too soon, it can go to their heads.
Come on, what's the worst that could happen?
Mr. DeVille, I'm ready for my close-up.
New Mercury Villager, now more room and more power. Preferred by grown-ups
and babies.
One anniversary card with 2 tickets to India inside, $3,500. Caravan to the Blue City, $64. Boat to the Palace on the Lake, $28. 25 years. More better than worse. Priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Platinum MasterCard, with a high spending limit for the things that matter.
Hi there. You know, America loves Ricoh digital imaging. So fast, crisp, reliable, colorful, user-friendly. Hi, how you doing? Connectable, and so incredibly affordable. That's why you have made us the #1 maker of digital copiers in the USA. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ricoh. We're #1.
Rogaine Extra Strength works for 4 out of 5 men.
What do you mean works?
Regrows hair, or at least stops hair loss.
My luck, I'll be that 5th guy.
Probably not. But here's our guarantee. Give Rogaine Extra Strength an honest chance. You be the judge. It stops hair loss, or regrows hair, more hair, thicker hair, faster, or we give your money back. Guaranteed. Rogaine Extra Strength works for you, or your money back.
I can't lose.
As America focuses on John Glenn's historic return to space,
Godspeed, John Glenn.
Mike Wallace takes a look back at the space race and the heroic Mercury 7.
They were kind of 7 Charles Lindbergh.
Pioneers in Space on the 20th Century with Mike Wallace. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on the History Channel.
Who would ever think prudishness could be the mother of invention? From the archives of the History Channel, this is TimeLab 2000. Dr. René Laennec, a French physician, is visited one day in 1816 by a buxom young woman with heart problems. The morals of the day prevent him from listening to her heart in the normal fashion by putting his ear to her chest. But the doctor is also a musician. He rolls a tube from paper, like a flute, and he touches this to his patient. He writes, "I was surprised and gratified at being able to hear the beating of the heart with greater clearness than ever before." Soon after, he fashions a hollow cylinder out of wood with a funnel at one end, the first stethoscope. And a new window on illness is opened, thanks to modesty. For the History Channel, I'm Sam Waterston.
We now continue with Haunted History, New Orleans on the History Channel.
A walk through St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 in New Orleans is literally a walk through history. Out of all the grave sites, one is most commonly visited. It is easily found because of a series of red X's scratched with brick into the front of the tomb. Visitors make the marks as a form of voodoo prayer, for this is the grave of New Orleans' most famous voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. When anyone mentions the word voodoo, the images that come to mind are those of zombies and witches, Satanism, black magic, and primeval tribal dance undulations, all images primarily introduced by television and motion pictures. But true voodoo, as originated in Louisiana in the early 1800s, is far from the widely publicized stereotype. In fact, voodoo is first and foremost a religion, an unusual mixture of traditional African beliefs and Roman Catholicism.
It was facilitated because the voodooists and others who practiced traditional African religions saw many similarities between the voodoo gods and the Catholic saints. And it was forbidden for the African ancestors to practice their own religion. So under the guise of practicing Roman Catholicism, they practiced or worshipped a voodoo god.
The most famous practitioner of voodoo was Marie Laveau. Born in 1794, Laveau was a mulatto of mixed black, white, and Indian blood. As such, she was from birth a free woman of color. After a failed marriage, Laveau supported herself by working as a hairdresser to the wealthy white and Creole women of New Orleans. At this time, she also learned the practices of voodoo. As the result of her talent for the theatrical, her business acumen, and her personal charisma, Marie's reputation soon eclipsed that of other voodoo queens. Under Marie Laveau's guidance, voodoo rituals held at Lake Pontchartrain became huge spectacles, particularly the ritual held every year on June 24th, St. John's Eve.
The St. John's Eve ritual occurs during the time of the summer solstice, and St. John that they're speaking about is St. John the Baptist, who became equated with the voodoo god. So that St. John's Eve ritual is a perfect example of how many cultures have mixed and come together.
Marie Laveau's reputation knew no racial boundaries. People of all colors came to her for aid and advice. One of Marie's most famous visitors was a Louisiana aristocrat whose son had been accused of rape and was awaiting trial. The father came to Marie for help in gaining an acquittal. Marie's approach began with a mixture of a special gris-gris, a combination of herbs, roots, and oils ground together and placed in a small bag. Marie placed the bag on the judge's doorstep with a note proclaiming the young man's innocence. As part of her ritual, Marie then inserted 3 guinea peppers into her mouth and placed the peppers under the judge's chair. Then came the trial and the verdict. Not guilty.
Everyone was happy, and in gratitude to the great voodoo queen, she was given a gift of a white house. This house was called Maison Blanche, which in French means white house. And it was the site of a lot of voodoo activities.
While many skeptics might question the true effect of Laveau's work on the outcome of the trial, those who walk in her footsteps foster no doubts.
I believe that Marie Laveau's intervention helped this aristocrat and his son, because as a priestess myself, I know the power of prayer and I know the power of ritual. And I know it was not just wishful thinking or something that just happened.
For the followers of voodoo, Marie Laveau's spirit lives on in New Orleans parlors where gris-gris potions are still mixed today. But apparitions of Marie seem to also have appeared, even to non-believers.
New Orleans is a city of spirits. It's a very mystical place. And Marie Laveau is a legend. Some say she has manifested herself as a crow. Edgar Allan Poe, the Raven, and all of these notwithstanding. She once lived in the 1000 block of St. Anne Street in New Orleans. And spirits like to frequent the places where they once lived. So people have allegedly seen her there. And then, of course, the cemetery, which is the place of all place of spirits. Marie has been sighted there. But whatever manifestation she has taken, her presence is still very much felt here. And people from all over the world come, and we seek the aid of her spirit to help us. Marie Laveau is still with us today. She is present. She is just as present as any saint in the church, as any family ancestor that has gone before us. She is with us today.
A voodoo parlor of New Orleans is one of the few places where the contrasting worlds of African tradition and Southern aristocracy would meet. But New Orleans aristocrats have their own spiritual legends to tell.
Haunted History New Orleans will continue here on the History Channel.
You're born, you die. In between, you work on cars. We should all be so lucky.
A house call with Dr. T. Barry Brazelton.
Don't rush your toddler into toilet training or let anyone else tell you it's time.
No.
It's got to be his choice. So I'm glad there's finally a bigger diaper for growing toddlers. What a big help and a terrific idea. Now he can decide for himself when the time is right. It's got to be his achievement, no one else's.
Introducing Pampers Size 6, specially designed for growing toddlers.
If you were to take away all the luxury cars on this road, priced above $30,000, without such luxuries as Bose CD audio system, leather seats, and a satellite-linked navigation system, what you'd have left would be the new 225 horsepower Acura TL and one very empty road on which to enjoy it. The new TL from Acura.
Modern Marvels.
It was born of a unique convergence of men, might, and money, which defined a defiant age.
President Roosevelt demanded it be built So they chopped through the jungle, blasted away riverbanks, and created a system to lift the world's biggest ships 7 stories high. Take a trip through the Panama Canal on Modern Marvels. Tonight at 10 Eastern, 11 Pacific, only on the History Channel.
What sets some people apart? Gives them the confidence to succeed on their own terms? It's no secret, it's the Wall Street Journal. Now you can have that confidence delivered for 13 weeks at just $36.75, just 57 cents a day. That's a 25% savings off our regular rate, which makes now a great time to try this limited time offer. Call now, 800-354-3400. That's 800-354-3400 for the Wall Street Journal.
They all started with a dream and proudly declared that theirs was made in the USA. The History Channel celebrates the spirit of invention and progress with industries that have contributed to the tapestry of American culture and economic life. From the tycoons who made millions to the bitter struggles of the working class heroes. And all new empires of industry. All next week at 9 Eastern, 10 Pacific on the History Channel, where the past comes alive. The History Channel now returns with more of Haunted History New Orleans.
While Canal Street and the French Quarter quickly became as the heart of New Orleans nightlife, the aristocracy found life on the surrounding plantations much more to their liking. The Myrtles Plantation was built in 1796 by General David Bradford. For 650 acres of land, he paid $1.25 per acre. What Bradford and subsequent owners did not realize is that the land was originally taken by the Spanish from the Tunica Indians, who used it as a burial ground. As any student of haunted history knows, Indian burial grounds are commonly the locations of supernatural activity. Judge Clark Woodruff, a law school colleague of General Bradford, subsequently took over the plantation. Woodruff, at age 35, married Bradford's daughter, Sarah Matilda, who was only 14. Together, according to plantation historians, they had 3 daughters, Mary, Jane, and Octavia. As was the custom at this time, domestic servants handled many of the household chores on a plantation. One particular slave girl handled the duties for the Woodruff family.
Chloe was her name, and Chloe was a nanny over the children. So whatever they needed, she would have took care of them. It's also believed that later something was going on with Chloe and Judge Woodruff, that he took her on as a mistress.
As a domestic servant, Chloe was in a key position to learn information that would affect other slaves on the property. She frequently eavesdropped on Judge Woodruff's conversations, letting other slaves know about pending sales or trades that might break up their families. But then, a disaster. Chloe was caught, and her punishment was severe. One of her ears was cut off. From that day on, Chloe always wore a scarf that covered her wound. Out of fear of banishment from her prestigious household position, Chloe developed a plan. In the privacy of the plantation kitchen, Chloe boiled the leaves of an oleander plant, which grew on the plantation grounds. The boiling process produced a poisonous liquid similar to arsenic. Chloe then mixed the liquid into the batter for a birthday cake she was preparing for one of the children. But her goal was not murder.
We feel that her intention with the oleander was to make the children sick, along with their mother. Already knowing what was wrong, she would be able to come in, take care of them, prove to them that she was the one to still manage the household and take care of the children, and she would not be sent to the fields.
On the night the birthday cake was served, the infant Octavia had already been put to bed. Judge Woodruff was away on business. The delicious cake was happily consumed by Jane, Mary, and their mother, Sarah Matilda. But Chloe's plan backfired horribly. The oleander mixture was stronger than she had anticipated, and within hours, the two young girls and their mother were dead. Chloe received the ultimate punishment.
After Chloe confessed to the poisoning, she was killed, and she was killed by a mixed mob, black and whites together, who were upset of what she had done to the children, and she was hung here on the grounds.
Today, Myrtle's plantation has been restored as a bed and breakfast establishment. Guests at the Myrtles have reported seeing the spirits of Chloe, the two murdered children, and their mother, Sarah Matilda. One night, a guest arrived late in the evening to see a young girl sitting on a bed, swinging her legs, dressed in a white gown. The next morning, the guest, thinking the child was the daughter of friends also staying at the Myrtles, remarked how much the child had grown. His friends explained that they had not brought their daughter along on this particular trip.
I really believe that he may have saw one of the judge's children. They tend to show themselves always wearing the white dress, and he said it was a gown, but it's very close to it. We believe that it was one of the judge's children.
Still other guests have reported seeing visions of two young girls playing gleefully on the plantation grounds.
We've had some guests come to visit, and they've had children with them, and the children like to show themselves to other children, and they've said that they've played with girly friends. We've had no other guests on the grounds that evening with children with them.
The children's poisoned mother has also made her presence known, always seen on the home's main staircase.
Maybe she's trying to see who's coming to her home. We don't know. But she keeps a very low profile, and we believe it could be Sarah Matilda.
Tour guide Hester Eby herself has come into contact with what she feels are spirits from the past.
I have myself been upstairs before, and I try not to go upstairs alone, but I have been upstairs, and coming down the back staircase, you can hear the sounds of someone else taking a step. They're walking along with you, and when you stop, that sound will stop.
For the Myrtles plantation, the sadness of a family's tragedy over a century ago continues to be felt today.
It was a sad time in a lot of ways, and because the Myrtles is on top of Indian burial ground, adds to some things, but people were killed violently sometimes, and things happened here, and those things you can't do anything about, and sometimes they want to let you know that they're still here, and they do it very well here.
The spirits who apparently haunt New Orleans are not all victims of violent deaths. One woman passed away peacefully and continues to watch over her unusual home, the Mississippi Riverboat Delta Queen.
In a moment, we will return to Haunted History New Orleans.
Freude, schöne Güte, Funkentochter aus Elysium, wir ertreten
The all-aluminum Audi A8. Developed with Alcoa, it's the first premium luxury sedan with a 10-star safety rating. No wonder everyone's singing its praise.
Rogaine Extra Strength works for 4 out of 5 men.
What do you mean, works?
Regrows hair, or at least stops hair loss.
My luck, I'll be that 5th guy.
Probably not. But here's our guarantee. Give Rogaine Extra Strength an honest chance. You be the judge. It stops hair loss, or regrows hair, more hair, thicker hair, faster, or we give your money back. Guaranteed. Rogaine Extra Strength works for you, or your money back.
I can't lose.
You have been burned at the stake, branded as evil, but you have no fears, for you possess magical powers. Just who the devil are you? the answer as Haunted History Week continues on In Search of History. Tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on the History Channel.
Articulated foot covers, studded leather armor, battle-ready helmet. 2,900 pounds of flesh and steel collide. There's only one place where the past comes alive. The History Channel.
Sunday is Guts and Glory Night, beginning with the evolution of firepower on Tales of the Gun. Then true stories from a world of lies and deception, sworn to secrecy, followed by history's secrets exposed. Break into the past with Arthur Kent, History Undercover. Guts and Glory Sunday presents Tales of the Gun, Sworn to Secrecy, History Undercover. Sunday at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on the History Channel.
There was a time when wars were fought hand to hand and face to face.
I had experienced it.
But that's history. Today, the weapons have taken over.
Laser-guided bombs.
Track the evolution of firepower.
The X-31, the Super Cobra.
Technological revolution.
From bows and arrows to guided missiles.
Oh, there's a hit.
Weapons at war. Tomorrow at 11 Eastern, 12 Pacific on the History Channel. We now continue with Haunted History, New Orleans on the History Channel.
As the southernmost port of the Mississippi River, New Orleans has always played a major role in the evolution of river transportation. Today, the river is a highway for cargo-filled freighters and luxurious steamboats. Steamboats may seem unlikely places for hauntings to occur, but one ship in particular, the Delta Queen, has a fascinating spiritual past. From 1811 to 1900, steamboats powered development, growth, and trade for the cities and states along the Mississippi. But by the end of the 19th century, the ships had all but vanished. River transport had lost out to the more reliable railroad. As steamboat lines closed one after the other, one man, Captain Gordon C. Green, refused to see the image of a paddle wheel riverboat die. Starting a company now known as the Delta Queen Steamboat Company, Green purchased his first steamboat, the H.K. Bedford. Shortly thereafter, he married Mary Becker from Marietta, Ohio. By 1895, Mary B. Green had learned enough at her husband's side to join a handful of women licensed to pilot steamboats. Soon, she became a full-fledged riverboat captain. Captain Gordon Green died in 1927, leaving the Green line of ships in the hands of his wife Mary and their sons, Tom and Chris. When Captain Chris died of a heart attack at age 43, Captain Tom set a goal to provide steamboat lovers with the finest craft ever to travel the waters of the Mississippi. In 1946, he found it in the steamer Delta Queen. Built in 1926, the ship had been commandeered for Army use in World War II and painted a drab gray. After an extensive $750,000 renovation, the Delta Queen made her maiden passenger voyage on June 30th, 1948. Captain Mary herself piloted the vessel during the early months. A room aboard the Delta Queen was specifically fitted out as her home. Unfortunately, Mary died in April 1949, having been a riverboat captain for 55 years. Just before she passed away, Mary was quoted as saying, "Were I to live over again, I wouldn't miss a day of the life I've enjoyed." After her death, Mary B. Green's physical presence may have left the Delta Queen, but many feel that her spirit still inhabits the famous ship. In 1982, First Mate Mike Williams became a believer when he was sleeping in his bunk all alone on the ship during a winter layover.
Somewhere along 1:30, 2 a.m., I was awakened by a sound.
it was a sound as if someone had bent down close to my ear and said, "Psst." And I realized that I had just come out of a deep sleep, and I thought, boy, that's an interesting dream. I was just starting to drift off to sleep again and in my darkened room when this time very distinctly and very close to my ear, and I could feel breath blow on me, there was another psst, and it was very frightening.
Mike decided to investigate, thinking someone had come on board.
I got down to the bottom of the staircase, and there was a loud slam. A door had slammed in the aft cabin lounge, halfway back on our what we call the cabin deck. Once again, it startled me, and I proceeded down the aft steps towards the engine room. And lo and behold, I stopped and paused, and I heard water gurgling.
Mike climbed down the steps to a large intake pipe where water would normally circulate from the river to supply the boilers when the vessel was in operation. There, he made a frightening discovery. A hole had rusted through the pipe, and water was gushing into the engine room with the stream of a fire hose. Mike made a hasty temporary repair, called his chief on shore, and the two made a permanent repair.
Now, had I not been awakened by whoever or whatever and not discovered this, there's a good chance the Delta Queen would have filled with water and sunk. I'm convinced that there's a benevolent, gentle old lady who keeps an eye out over the boat. I'm sure it's Captain Mary Green.
This was not to be the only time Mike Williams would be touched by the spirit of Mary Green. On another occasion, as the ship was underway in the middle of the night, Mike received a phone call in his cabin from a young woman named Myra Fruget, who had just started working in the ship's purser's office.
She said she had just received a call from an old lady down in the cabin area who had complained over the phone that she was cold and she wasn't feeling well, and she needed someone to come take a look at her. I said, I'll hurry down and I'll check it out.
When Mike reached the elderly woman's room, he knocked and there was no answer. After knocking again, he feared that the woman might be in severe distress, so he opened the door with his passkey.
Opened the door, the room was empty. Not only was it empty, it was unoccupied. So I thought, that's strange. And I thought, well, perhaps it was an old lady who had made a mistake on which cabin she was in and had called from a different location.
Mike went to the purser's office to confirm that he had been sent to the right cabin. He found a slightly shaken Myra Fruget.
Myra sat there and she said, something funny's going on here. She said, I had a strange feeling that I was being watched through the window. And I said, you're kidding. She said, no. And I turned around and looked, and there was an old lady looking at me through the window.
Because Myra was still shaken by the incident, Mike offered to walk her back to her cabin. On the way, they passed historical photos from the Delta Queen's past.
Myra and I were walking along, just chatting quietly so as not to disturb anyone, when she looked at these photos and she grabbed my arm and stopped, and her eyes grew wide, and she was really shaken. And I said, what's wrong with you? And she said, that's her. I said, who? She said, that's the lady who just stared at me through the window. I said, it can't be. That's Captain Mary Green. She died in the 40s. And she looked back at me and she said, that's her.
As fate, and perhaps Mary B. Green would have it, this was just the beginning for Mike Williams and Myra Fruget.
The moral of the story is that things did progress, and Myra Fruget is now my wife, Myra Williams, and we have an 11-year-old daughter. Now, and we're always proud to tell people that we were introduced by Captain Mary Green.
Although Mike Williams is certain that the spirit of Mary B. Green still watches over the Delta Queen, he has never himself seen apparitions of Mary. Others, however, have.
Well, it was interesting. It was the first time I had ever been on the Delta Queen, and I wasn't there as any river historian. I knew nothing about the boat or the history of it, really. I was there as a musician.
Marcy Richardson, official historian for the Delta Queen, has seen visions of Mary on several occasions. She will never forget the first. Marcy was alone, reading late at night in one of the Delta Queen lounges.
I noticed just peripherally somebody walking past me, which I found unusual that late at night, and I looked to see who it was. It looked like an older woman who I didn't recognize, but I could see this person walking. I thought, that's odd. And you know how when you're taken away from your reading, you look up and then you look back again. By the time I did the double take, she was gone.
When this happened the third night in a row, Marcy became concerned enough to tell the ship's cruise director, who asked Marcy to describe the woman. Marcy was shown a picture of the legendary female riverboat captain.
I said, who on earth is that? And then he started telling me about Mary Green. So, and that was who I saw. I mean, there's no doubt about it. She could have just been photographed.
Mary Green may have also made her presence known to ship entertainer Phyllis Dale when she left her cabin late at night to use a restroom.
Immediately in front of me was a lady in a long green velvet robe. I followed her and she made a turn and I turned and she wasn't there anymore.
The next day, Phyllis confronted the ship's captain.
I asked Captain Shinigami what he thought of made of this. And he said, Phyllis, he said, you've only been on the Delta Queen a few months. He says, you probably don't know that we have a ghost on board, the ghost of Mary Green.
For the crew and guests of the Delta Queen, Mary Green's presence aboard the ship does not make them fearful. In fact, it lets them rest easier at night.
I don't get a feeling that she's a troubled spirit. I think that she's quite content doing what she's doing, which is seeing the vessel along through the years, so that it continues to be a time capsule, just absorbing the energy of the people who've been there. But oh yeah, she's there.
From Mississippi riverboats to stately plantations, New Orleans spirits apparently refuse to leave their beloved homes. None of the legends can compare to incidents witnessed still to this day at a French Quarter theater called Le Petit.
Haunted History New Orleans will continue here on the History Channel.
Tell the truth. Do you soak your dentures every day? No? Takes too long? Well, Polident works in just 5 minutes. So it's easy to clean every day. And that's what really helps control denture odor. Use 5-minute Polident every day.
Introducing a sports sedan that sets a new standard of performance, and a touring sedan that sets a new standard of luxury. Here they are. Introducing the new TL with a satellite-linked navigation system from Acura.
I'm the luckiest man alive. I just bought this camera. Does my Visa card have some kind of purchase coverage or something? No? Oh, boy. Hey, does Visa have any place out here I can pick up a new car today? No, but I'm driving to Vegas to see Steve and Edie tonight.
Visa, it's everywhere you want to be.
Wow!
What was that? Visa says they're everywhere, but American Express helps you with just about everything.
Okay, yeah. You think we should get help?
Nope, I got it.
So you can always do more.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Go beyond the battlefields.
No more appalling sight was ever seen on this earth.
And witness the brutality of...
They were stripped of any human dignity.
War Crimes, The Death Camps on Civil War Journal. Tonight at 11 Eastern, 12 Pacific on the History Channel.
Investing can be simple. $50 a month in a strong no-load mutual fund. It's easy to set up. No checks to write. $50 a month with strong service. $50 a month with strong performance. Investing can be simple. Just $50 gets you started. Call 1-800-4STRONG.
Who do you want to be today?
We have nothing to fear but fear itself.
I'm the girl with the tutti frutti hat.
You dirty rat.
Go away, kid, you bother me.
I could have been somebody, Charlie.
Ah! Can't we talk?
I get no respect.
Slip into the lives of some of the world's most fascinating people. Watch A&D's biography and escape the ordinary.
I'll be back.
Break into the past, into a world of deception, into a world where reality is history undercover. Sunday at 10 Eastern, 11 Pacific on the History Channel. The History Channel now returns with more of Haunted History New Orleans.
Historians and non-historians alike would acknowledge that all of New Orleans is a form of theater. From the Mardi Gras kings and queens who annually don garish costumes to the average tourist on Bourbon Street who suddenly undergoes a change of personality, life in New Orleans is filled with laughter and tears, comedy and tragedy. In short, a sense of theater. One venue in the French Quarter serves as an eloquent historical metaphor for the contrast of emotion that defines New Orleans. It also may provide a glimpse into the supernatural. The Le Petit Theater opened its doors to the public in 1922. Prior to that time, the building had survived fires and reconstruction dating back to the late 18th century. But it took the dramatic elements of theater to truly bring the structure to life and to bring about the return of deceased theater participants who apparently never wanted to leave. From actresses to carpenters to the ghosts of children roaming the attic, the theater has truly been a circus of ghost-like activity. Perhaps the most famous figure is an actress named Caroline, who has been known to help corral the mischievous young spirits whose presence no one can explain. But Caroline's was a sorrowful fate. While wearing a wedding dress for the role of a new bride, romance turned to tragedy.
Caroline seemed to be a beautiful young actress. The rumor has it that she was having an affair with someone here. She was married, so I suppose they had little clandestine meetings up on the roof over in the courtyard. No one knows exactly what happened that day, but it seems somehow she fell. Her head cracked open and she died. Even though she died abruptly, with that proverbial unfinished business that always keeps people lurking around, they say she's still here, but in a benevolent way, helping people, interacting with them.
Images of Caroline on the back stairs of the theater have been seen by many employees. Several set designers and technical directors acknowledge having asked the spirit of Caroline for assistance. Stephen Thurber once sought her help as he searched the attic for a sword.
I couldn't find this prop for production, and I knew I'd put it up there months ago. And couldn't find it, looked all over, needed it for the rehearsal that night. So one of the things that myself and the other people who worked here used to do was ask Caroline to help us find whatever we were looking for. And then in this one instance, I just walked back upstairs and there was the sword sitting in plain view, right where it wasn't there before. So as corny as it sounds, I grabbed the sword, thanked Caroline, and walked downstairs.
Caroline was not the only actress to meet her demise at the Le Petit. Not to be upstaged, another thespian met her doom in an even more dramatic fashion.
It seems that this woman wanted the part very, very badly. She thought she was getting the part. She was promised the part. Rumor also has that she was sleeping with the director for the part. I know that stuff doesn't really go up, but she was sleeping with the director and was promised, and she still did not get the part. She hung herself on the grand drape, which would have been to show everyone, I suppose, how disgruntled, to say the least, that she was. They say when you get next to that drape that it is very cold and icy. Hairs will stand up on edge, and that's been witnessed and felt by many people here as well.
On the less traumatic side, there is also the ghost of Sigmund, a former carpenter at the theater who still considers backstage his home. Sigmund died years ago, but many continue to see him in the form of shadows, still performing his duties, and occasionally a few pranks.
This is a family of ghosts here, just like a family at home. Everybody with their own little peculiarities. He seems to like to mess with the lights during performances or move the curtains down when they're not supposed to, escape with props when they're needed for the very next scene. So he's a prankster, he's a poltergeist, and he hangs around for that purpose. Probably try to get even for some of his past experiences here, or lack of raises, or whatever one might linger around for.
The family of ghosts at Le Petit also includes the specter of a strange figure often seen sitting alone in the balcony. He always appears in whiteface, wearing a top hat, and no one quite knows who he could be. But none of the supernatural entities inhabiting the theater have affected any human being more dramatically than one encountered by Stephen Thurber. It happened one evening when he and two associates were walking through the library of the theater toward a door leading to the dressing rooms.
Something told me not to open that door, so I told that to the other two gentlemen I was with. And they asked why, and I said, I don't know, just do not open that door, and they did anyway. And when they opened the door, all I could see was a large figure in puffy sleeves or an old-time shirt came charging at me. And next thing I know, I'm on the ground with my lip split open. And the two gentlemen said that something just ran right through me and kept going. So I quickly ran out the building after that.
Few visitors to New Orleans have had or ever will have an experience like that of Stephen Thurber. It is unlikely also that tourists will run into Marie Laveau at St. Louis Cemetery or Madame Lala Ree in the French Quarter. If they are lucky, however, they might catch a glimpse of happy children at Myrtle's Plantation or Mary B. Green on the Delta Queen. Many believe ghosts to be a figment of our imaginations. If that is true, the city of New Orleans must be viewed as fertile ground for the curious mind. For few cities in America can lay claim to the broad range of mysterious encounters documented in the Crescent City. Do you believe in ghosts? If not, perhaps you need to walk down Bourbon Street and analyze the apparitions you see. Are they the result of the spirits in your drink? Or are they proof that spirits from another time really do exist in a place called the Big Easy?
Now, an exclusive offer from the History Channel. You can own the complete Haunted History series, all 4 hours on 2 video cassettes. Call 1-800-708-1776, and for $39.95 plus shipping and handling, receive Haunted History.
Modern Marvels.
It was born of a unique convergence of men, might, and money, which defined a defiant age.
President Roosevelt demanded it be built So they chopped through the jungle, blasted away riverbanks, and created a system to lift the world's biggest ships 7 stories high. Take a trip through the Panama Canal on Modern Marvels. Next, only on the History Channel, where the past comes alive.